All right, well, let's get into it, guys. So today we got Matt Sanford on. You guys probably have seen him on Garrett's channel. He kind of is, you've always tried to be pretty elusive on Garrett's channel, I feel like.
Yeah.
But you do a ton of the behind-the-scenes remote tuning on like the TRX stuff, the LS stuff with stock computers, HP tuners type of thing. I don't know what Dodge guys use.
Still HP tuners.
HP tuners,
Yeah.
okay. I don't know a whole lot about Dodge tuning. It seems like the mystery one where not a lot of people do it. You could throw a rock and hit somebody that'll tune an LS.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But a Dodge thing, I don't know. It seems like people shy away from it.
It's honestly, it's pretty similar to LS stuff, really. I mean, it's speed density based. They're actually pretty sophisticated ECUs. But yeah, we use HP tuners. Like I tuned the Trackhawk using HP tuners on that one.
Okay. So yeah, you've tuned the Trackhawk, all the giveaway TRXs. You were tuning that Gen 4 ECU deal, right? The GMC truck. That was a nightmare.
The Global B truck.
The Global B.
Yeah, yep. I tuned that one. And then I helped Nate tune the Ariel Atom.
Okay.
And then I helped tune the teal, like, two-door Tahoe that had the LT swap in it.
Oh, okay. That one came from Stainkiller. I didn't realize you guys touched up stuff on that.
Yeah, it's just, well, because they were so rushed because, how Garrett is with the giveaway stuff. Like, when it needs to happen, it's going to happen right now.
Garrett having a tight timeline?
Yeah.
Never, dude.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that, and then I know you were out at the all-wheel drive race today. Do you touch any of the aftermarket Holley stuff?
Well, I do, but I like stock ECU stuff. I tried to get into the Holley stuff, but because I grew up tuning stock ECU, I overthink the Holley stuff.
Yeah.
So that's when I just get with Nate or whoever and have them help out.
I like when you open a Holley and there's like a picture.
Yeah.
It's like
The
it's like
spark
a
plug.
Denny's menu.
Yeah.
It's like, everything's a photo of it, or like a Waffle House. You got the photos, you just like point and it knows what it's doing.
Yep.
I mean, I get sticking with stock ECU stuff. There's way more of them.
There is.
And I feel like with stock ECU, you can kind of put a tune to somebody and they're good for a while.
They are, yeah.
With an aftermarket Holley ECU, the guy's probably messing with it constantly.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing on Holley is it's not so much the tuning aspect of it, but the mechanical aspect. So you've got guys that may not have a boost reference fuel pressure regulator, or there's just something on the mechanical combo. Like a lot of guys don't like to run fuel pressure sensors for whatever reason. So then when you're trying to tune it, they may be on 75 pounds of base pressure or 30 pounds of base pressure. You got to figure that one out.
That's weird also because I think when you buy a Holley harness, it's built in.
It is. Well,
You just plug it in.
Right. Well, it doesn't come with the sensor though.
Yeah.
So it's like an extra $150 or whatever to buy the Holley sensor. So a lot of guys just leave that plug dangling.
That's the one that you skip. I guess if you're gonna skip $100 somewhere, I guess. I mean, maybe put one in there for the tuning and then sell it at least.
I personally feel like Holley should require that for the vehicle to even start. Honestly,
it seems reasonable to have one. It's such an easy diagnostic point.
It really is
when your car does something weird.
Well, I mean, everybody pretty much knows that a tuner's job is either to tell you that you have bad spark plugs or you need more fuel system. Plain and simple. That's our job. That's pretty much my life.
Just daily telling people need more fuel system or spark plug.
Yep. Or burnt spark plug wire. It's usually something like that.
Yeah, well, the LS guys, they'll put those like fancy boots on there.
Yeah, those actually make things worse.
It's amazing how such a good selling product make things worse. That should be a quick public service announcement. Those fancy boots that you put on there on your coil, on your plug wire, will actually melt the plug and you won't see it.
Yep.
The plug wire.
Well, because they're meant for indirect heat. So as long as you have a little bit of air gap, they do help in that aspect. But if they touch in the primary, it's over. It's burning that wire.
The best ones I always see are the ones that can bend. You get like the MSD ones that can
100%.
that you can bend and keep away from the header, and that's kind of the only way to really do it.
Yeah, either that or if you've got like a turbo header or something, just go in and relocate the coils and do the 90-degree boot under the manifold.
Yeah. Do you request, because you do, how much percentage remote is like 90%?
Now it is. It used to be none, and I've just gotten to the point where I enjoy remote tuning. So I would say 90 or 95%.
And used to be like how long ago was it not remote tuning?
Year and a half, maybe.
Yeah, because it seems like ramped up in the last year and a half was just remote.
Yep.
I feel like Lund Racing is always my go-to when I think of remote tuning because he's like
he's the GOAT.
He's kind of like the poster child of like
Yeah.
sending just remote tune after remote tune for the Coyote guys.
Yeah.
And I know you're more on the LS side of things. And
LS, LT, Biggest thing that makes my job different than his is Coyotes, guys don't really cam those. I mean, they do, but it's rare. There's just more of like a cookie cutter combo for tuning. So he can focus on all the force induction stuff, the different blowers, the different turbo sizes, things like that. Whereas I'm having to deal with, an LS guy thinking that he needs a custom grind cam because he wants to be different than everybody else. So then I'm having to, go basically full custom every time.
I hate that.
Yeah.
It's the same with half of the time. It's the same with the converters too. You likely don't need a custom converter if you have like a CTSV with a heads cam package.
Right.
You could just run whatever the fast guys are running.
Yep.
Just buy from them.
Yeah.
It's the same with the cams on the CTS. Like if you have a CTSV that's making like 700 horsepower, you don't need anything custom. You just buy what works.
Yeah. Well, honestly, those cars will usually get away with stock converter.
Yeah.
Because you can make so much torque so fast. A lot of guys think that converter is based off of stall speed, but it's not. It's all about diameter of the converter. So if you hit a big converter harder, it's going to flash higher. So you get these guys that have these pretty radical pulley combos on ethanol. They can hit that the factory converter hard and get those 130, 140, 60 foots without even making a change.
It is pretty impressive how those whole combo car works so well.
That car was such a good car when GM produced it.
They did so many things right on that deal that they're oddly like the GM tuner car in a lot of ways.
Nowadays they are.
Just because they're so cheap and readily available. Cheap, in quotes.
Right.
Some people are like, they're 30 grand. It's like, yeah, it's pretty cheap for a supercharged V8 with a 6L80 or 6L90, whatever they are. 680, right?
6L90.
6L90.
Yeah.
I always mix up which ones had the 80 or 90s, which cars.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're so freaking easy, and they even kind of outperform the ZL1s in a lot of.
I would rather have a CTSV over a ZL1 anyways, just because.
It's so weird how that's like that.
I mean, that's such a nice car though. They ride good, they're good cars.
So with the Coyote stuff, they have wideband O2s also.
They do.
Which is kind of nice.
It's very nice.
Compared to a narrow band
that
a GM tuner gets, which makes remote slightly more challenging.
Right. Well, see, what really benefits it is not only do they have a wideband, they have two, and it's closed loop the whole time. So the car's always going to adapt to whatever its environment is. So with GM stock ECU stuff, if somebody's fuel pressure dips and that vehicle didn't have a factory fuel pressure sensor, it goes lean. I mean, sorry about your luck. Something bad's going to happen.
There's no catching it. There's no
Nope.
adding fuel for the injectors.
Nope.
There's no.
Now, the later ones that have the fuel pressure sensor, their injector data is based off of fuel pressure differential, so they can adapt somewhat, but not like a Coyote. Coyotes are that's the reason why there's a lot less blown up Coyotes than there is LSs, honestly.
There's a lot of blown up LSs, especially on stock ECUs.
Yeah.
It's a readily visible thing all over the place. Plus, the newer Coyotes get dual fuel injector. You get port injection and direct injection. And you probably deal with all the direct injection bullshit as it comes now.
I enjoy it, honestly. That direct injection works so well. I can't believe how strong those cars are. You're talking 80 to 100 more horsepower than an LS. That's same cubic inch, same mods, but just you add the DI and the fact that the heads are really good on an LT, and they make big power.
Yeah, what would you more attest that to than the added horsepower? Is that more of a flowing cylinder head, or is that the direct injection kind of simulating?
I think it's a little bit of
compression.
Well, it's not so much that, but you have all the extra cooling capacity of the fuel. It's actually cooling the air charge down.
Yeah.
And it's also timed really well. So LSs, they spray fuel on a closed intake valve. So it just kind of makes the combustion process kind of dirty when you have a lot of overlap. Whereas the LT stuff, I mean, we can put it right in where it needs to be.
Right at the exact time. Yeah, because I was talking to somebody tuning an R8, and they were trying to calculate the amount of time that the fuel injector sprayed, but also they were trying to calculate for the seeping of it being on the runner and dripping in and how long that takes.
Yeah.
And they had to factor that into it. And then with a direct injection car, you don't even think about any of that stuff. It's as soon as you command it, I guess.
Yeah, it is. It's like LS, one of the biggest things that guys don't tune is transient fuel, like your tip-in, like accelerator pump. Direct injection, there is no transient fuel. It's in the cylinder. It's ready to go. So if you've got fueling nailed down, you don't have to worry about a lot of that mess. So to me, it's actually easier, and they're more fuel efficient. They make more torque. Like, I enjoy it.
I mean, they are freaking good. Like the C7 ZR1 is gonna go down as one of the best Corvettes of all time.
100%.
And they're becoming such a good purchase too. And they're just the one flaw GM had is that little heat soaking blower.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you see that more than anyone.
That's probably the biggest issues with like LT4, LT5 vehicles in general. I remember back 2015, 2016, the intercooler pump wire was sliding out of the relay box on the C7s, and guys were just melting tips of plugs off. And then once you melt that tip of the spark plug off, it usually scores up a cylinder wall, and you've got oil consumption. I mean, manifold air temp is probably the biggest killer to the LT stuff.
Interesting. Well, they had like multiple different recalls on that stuff too. Like the lid had a recall, then the front
front coolers.
The front coolers had a recall. They were like,
Yep.
it's not enough. Then they even like recalled the front end because they were like, we need more venting in them and stuff. Like all kinds of weird, like after the fact, like, oh, you guys can't cool these things down at all. Huh?
Yeah, and then they come out with the ZR1 that's essentially mechanically perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, those cars are just absolutely incredible. And that's why they're bringing, $250,000 now.
Yeah, and they made them for 1 year.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we made this great car, but it's already done.
Yeah.
Sorry. If you didn't order one, 2019 was it?
Yep.
And nobody touches them now because they kind of they're too good and they're too rare to screw with.
Yeah.
That's kind of the sad thing. So I know you posted the other day you've done thousands of remote emails at this point.
Yep.
What is your last year of how many remote tunes did you allegedly send out?
What do you mean?
Like, how many remote tunes are you sending out a year at this point?
Well, so this past 12
I meant
months,
allegedly, because allegedly you never calibrated a single car. Right?
Oh, okay. Well, it was 1,201 remote tunes in the last year.
Shit.
And that's not including dyno time, because I still go to a shop and usually dyno at least 2 or 3 days a week. And then I still have shops that I tune for as well. And I don't count those on the website stuff.
So, yeah, a lot of shops do that where the shop owner will just sit there with the laptop on there and take directions from you, like floor it now or not.
Basically.
Yeah.
But I mean, so I'd say I'd probably tuned 1,800 vehicles or so this year if I had to guess.
That's a promising sound for the aftermarket car world,
It
too.
really is.
That there's that many people still out there modifying and tuning.
Well, the good thing is I picked my own niche, and I like to focus mainly on the trucks with camshafts. And thankfully, GM gave us trucks that need camshafts from the factory, essentially.
All of Texas has them.
Yeah.
Texas has all of them, and then you're in what's it called, Nashville?
Yeah,
right?
I'm in Nashville, yeah.
Which location doesn't really matter when you send out tunes constantly. You just need good Wi-Fi.
Yeah, but if you think about the lifter failure issue and how many camshafts it takes out, I basically have an unlimited supply of those things.
Well, everyone is eventually going to need a camshaft if you drive it long enough.
Correct.
And then they also end up needing a transmission half
Correct.
of them.
And that's what I'm also known for is the transmission side of things, saving the torque converters and the 6L80s and the 8L90s.
What do you mean by saving them?
Not running them as hard. So GM will lock up those converters like in the 8L90s in first and second gear. And then they'll allow for TCC slips. So say the vehicle goes into four-cylinder mode, they allow the converter to slip 40 to 60 RPM. That way you don't feel the DOD kicking in and out.
Yep.
It just murders them. I mean, you can imagine it. It'd be like you going out in your car and just lightly riding the clutch the whole time. It's not good for converters.
It sounds like that was all environmental stuff, too, to keep the gas mileage at the required level.
That's what I would assume.
Yeah. Well, both of it, like the four-cylinder for sure, and then whatever they did with the converter to try to trick the customer into not feeling their car, do some weird stuff. Even like my truck, the L5Ps, the converters are known for doing just funky stuff at random times. Like Alan had one, and he was like, the converter will just like shudder.
They will. Well, because another thing is there's another TCC slip table for air conditioning on versus air conditioning off.
Oh.
They don't want you to feel the AC clutch engage.
Yeah.
So that's another good thing for a converter.
Yeah, of course. You got to modulate your converter based on air conditioning.
Yeah.
Great. That's really nice to modulate my... I mean, I guess they're probably similar priced on like an L5P converter versus air conditioning condenser
Yeah.
and compressor.
Yeah. Well, they finally went to a variable clutch AC compressor now. So they even engaged smoother, but for whatever reason, they felt like the torque converter needed to slip also.
Can you modify that stuff on the back end? Like, can you, or is that locked tables?
No, I can turn that off.
So, wow, because I'm always curious how much is allowed access to when you don't have like GM Tech 2 or whatever.
So, well, here's
the
the thing. So you can really get into the binary files on basically anything. So even if we don't have access to those tables, doesn't mean that we don't have access at all. It just means that that software doesn't have them defined at that time. But we can still go in and find them.
Mm-hmm. So you're not seeing it in the software like you would see like a drop down.
Right.
But you have to go through it in the binary.
Right.
Like the actual computer coding.
Correct.
So it's not. That's weird. So HP tuners would have to build the software to read that, is what you're saying?
No, basically it just works out to where HP tuners defines what they feel like we need. And then as tuners find stuff in binary, they'll actually send in a support ticket to HP tuners and say, hey, we need this table on this operating system, and they can add it. So, the good part is the TCC slip tables and stuff, all that's defined. That's fine. Yeah. But if there's something that we need to change and it's not available, we can still make it available.
It's interesting, too, because like you might not know what you need.
Right.
You might not know it's there doing something kind of in the background, like a ghost in the kind of computer that things overlap that you wouldn't realize.
Well, I actually had one just the other day. I tuned a V6 direct injection truck, and there is a injector pulse width limit to where once I got up to that limit, it would actually start to close the throttle. That table is not defined. And I spent probably 2.5 or 3 hours trying to find why this throttle was closing. And I finally figured it out. And next thing you know, as soon as I put that information out there, other guys are figuring it out. So we know the way around it now, but we don't have the table to actually fix it. So what we have to do is we had to increase rail pressure to lower injector pulse width, and that's what opened up the throttle body, and it was fine.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. So there's something back there.
Yep.
It's hidden.
Yep.
What V6 was it then?
Is
it the
LV3?
LV3, yeah.
Yep.
I think that's what the CTSVs, the ATSVs use as well.
It's
LF3 maybe.
Yeah, it's similar, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's the what's in the ATSV is forged internals, good pistons. Mm-hmm. It's different, but it's similar structure.
They're pretty good little engines from what I hear.
They really are. ATSV, I mean, basically tune only. You can make 600 wheel and go out and run nines.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome.
Yeah.
They're underrated cars. They 100%. Really are. And again, it's like one of those cars that nobody really paid attention to that much. And even the aftermarket support is still like, it's there, but it's like a niche group of the car community. Do you ever tune any of those?
I have. I try not to. I try to avoid the platforms that are rare because of instances like that LV3 where I had that hidden limiter. Mm-hmm. It takes so much time for me to find those things that sometimes it's just not worth it. Because, I mean, ultimately for me, it comes down to, is this profitable? Is it worth my time? Because I would rather have a customer go to somebody that specializes in that platform. So if there's a specific ATSV tuner out there, I would rather them go to them.
Yeah.
So, I'll get emails from guys needing me to tune Fords or some Mopar stuff, and I'll send them to whoever I think is the best at that.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, especially because you got to value your time. If you can do 2 tunes in the time that you just troubleshoot this one tune, it's like, oh, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And, not many people have that luxury where they can do that, like not all tuners do. Sometimes they just got to accept any shitbox that rolls in.
Right.
And I've seen that, and there's the other flip side, like, Brent at PFI Speed, like, I was talking to him, I'm like, man, people bring some, like, really kind of wrong stuff. Like, things are just done wrong.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but, like, I try to help them because this is their hot rod. This is all they got. And he'll spend hours helping, but that's a different mentality.
It is. And I had that mentality for a little bit, but I quickly learned that the cars that were causing me the most issues to sort through were taking so much time that I was losing money.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I like doing this full time. So I don't want to have to work a second job and tune on the side as a hobby. I would rather just all in. And so I've been all in for almost 19 years now.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was that long. Well, I've seen it with Jeremy, too. It's like, I see a car come in on the dyno. They make a couple pulls. It needs this, that, or the other thing. And then suddenly his 2 techs are on this car. And it's like, how do you tell your tune customer that it's now $3,000 because you just had 2 techs on there for 2 hours?
Right. Well, that's where the remote tuning stuff comes in, because if I run into a mechanical issue, I'm not there. They can just take their time, fix it whenever they need. If it takes them a week or 2, it's fine. Just get back to me whenever it's fixed.
Yeah. So I imagine you take some pretty extensive notes.
Well, no, I just try to keep everybody on like a single email chain.
Yeah.
And that way I can just go back through all the emails.
But even like in the email, you probably got
to dig back.
to some refresher.
I have to remind myself, but that's okay. I mean, that's part of it, because I don't want – there's some guys that remote tune that will have a time limit on their stuff. I don't. As long as you're not changing stuff on me, like obvious – like changing injectors or doing something like that. Like, I'm cool with trying to help everybody.
Yeah, it shows up and it's like, okay, we fixed the problem, but now it is a ported blower, a different cam, different converter, and we rebuilt the trans. So it needs a trans relearn.
Right.
The trans relearn stuff I've heard is really funky too.
It is.
On those. It does some weird ass things when you do a relearn, because you'll hear all the solenoids start to bleed out. And
yeah, you got to like basically stand on the brake whenever it does it, because sometimes when it engages, I mean, it comes in at full force. It's basically, it activates the clutch at full pressure and then backs itself down until it sees slip, is the way I think I understand it. And so when it slams into gear, I mean, it'll catch you off guard.
Yeah.
They tell you hold your foot all the way down on the brake, e-brake down, like be ready for it.
Put it up on the lift, baby.
Yes. Yeah.
They don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because I've always seen those. I've also heard some horror stories of doing trans relearns, like, oh, and it really showed itself to be screwed up.
Yeah, they will. Well, some guys will do the relearn procedure through the scanner, and sometimes it doesn't finish correctly, and then they'll have no gears. It won't do anything. So you either have to shut the truck off for like 15 minutes, or you have to reflash in the TCM file, and it'll come back to life. But it'll scare you.
I'd imagine, yeah. I mean, I'd be terrified if my 6L80 was just like, yep. Not today, boss.
Yeah.
It's not like a Power Glide or a 4L80 that's kind of easy to put back together.
Yeah.
Power Glide is all in is like $5,000. 6L80 is rough.
Yeah.
But even like the new 10-speed stuff is probably a whole different animal.
It is, and they've gotten a lot better. So I mean, I have seen failures out of the 10L stuff, but it's not anything like the 8L90 or the 6L80.
Yeah.
Because I mean, honestly, like 6L80 is a great trans, 8L90 is a great trans. As long as you can get them tuned, get the TCC slip out of it, service them on time. I mean, we've literally gone 8s on stock 8090 stock converter. So, I mean, it's possible.
In like a
C7Z.
C7?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're, again, such freaking good cars.
They really are.
Yeah. And then like the V3s also had that kind of stuff, but they're not as around as much.
Right. Well, they don't feel as sporty to me. You get in a CTS-V and a V2 and you feel like, I know I'm in a performance car, but I also know I'm in a Cadillac. You get in a V3 and it's like, I'm definitely in a Cadillac.
Yeah, they definitely strayed farther. And then like the new Blackwing stuff is just more luxurious, less aggressive, I think.
Which those cars are nasty though.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
They are really, really cool power plant they put in there.
Yeah.
But it's very tame, I would say.
It is.
But the power is, of course, pretty awesome. So are you going to tune the new V that Garrett's giving away?
I don't know yet.
Is he going to mess with that?
I mean, he knows I'm down here for like...
Is it Global B?
It is Global B.
Okay.
And but he knows I'm down here for a couple weeks, but I haven't heard anything about it yet. That's not abnormal though.
Yeah.
So I'm just here. I'm just helping. If he says, hey, pull out your laptop, I will. Otherwise, it's, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably so good the way it is.
It is.
That it's like, does it need more?
Well, I mean, it's getting a camshaft.
Is it?
Yeah. He finally put it out there. It is getting a camshaft. It's getting a pulley. It's getting a cold air. Now, it's supposedly not getting headers or anything else. Supposedly, we're not going for a record,
Hopefully, he's not getting like a camshaft. Hopefully, he's getting like a nice little
PDS stage 1.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, he's keeping it nice.
Yeah,
I'm impressed, honestly.
Don't let like James or Bobby spec that thing.
Hey, Bobby's actually really good at specking camshafts.
He is really good, but he's an aggressive cam specker.
Well, he tries to give the customer what they want. So if you come to him and you tell him, hey, I want this thing to idle nice on stock converter, he will definitely take care of you on that.
Okay.
But if you come to him and tell him you want some chop, you're getting all the chop.
James would spec it through Bobby and be like, we need to.
Yeah, that's the big issue. It's not Bobby, it's James.
Yeah, it'd be what you tell Bobby because, Bobby, I mean, he's I don't think many people know camshafts quite as well as he does for an
He's
LS
definitely one of the best.
and a LT stuff.
Well, even small block Fords, big block Chevys, like he's really good at what he does.
Just the amount of testing they've done
Yeah.
when he was at Cam Motion. Just
Yeah, and then he actually was taught by, I forget the gentleman's name, but he was taught by like one of the guys that was leaving Cam Motion. So he got all this wealth of knowledge from somebody that's a lot older than him.
Yep. So guys, Nate, go to Nate if you need a badass cam spec'd and delivered to your door, because I think that's the main place you would get it.
Yeah, I
through
mean,
Bobby.
and he won that cam challenge too. Did you see that?
Oh yeah, he
The
won.
LS3 cam challenge.
They did like a third-party random cam challenge. They didn't tell anyone it was going to be like a challenge like that or anything. Really, they just kind of were like, "Hey, we need a cam that's going to do this, this, and this," and they put like 15 people's cams, and they did like 5 categories, I think, and his cam won all
Everything.
5.
Yep.
Was on top of all 5 of them.
And was smaller than several of them.
Yeah, it wasn't as aggressive, so the valve train would be happier, which is cool. But yeah, that was a cool win to see.
Yeah, it was.
That kind of data is hard to compete with.
It really is. But I mean, the cool part is they did get the specs of the intake runners. They got several of the specs, and Bobby knew it was going to be a single plane intake, so that helped. Like he used his brain on that one.
Yeah, didn't just throw something at the wall.
No.
Interesting. So how much stuff are you doing that's like swapped versus maybe just OEM? Are people swapping stock ECUs into cars?
They are. They're still doing that.
It seems confusing to me to do that, but I guess if you got a wrecked car, you already got the harness.
Right. Well, the biggest thing is drivability. I mean, factory ECU, they take so much into account that you can really make one drive nice. So I will try to get guys that do swaps to use stock ECU up to a certain point. Like if you're going turbo or big blower, go over to Holly. But if you're, just like a cam 6-liter on E85 or whatever, like it's fine on stock ECU.
Yeah, especially for like a resto mod or something like that, where it's like it's going to be tuned and done like a factory car.
Yeah.
You're not going to touch it all the time.
No, the biggest issue with those is just having to talk to the customer and determine, okay, what transmission's in it? Because a lot of times they'll try to do a turbo 400 and stock ECU doesn't play nice like that. It wants the vehicle speed sensor input. It wants part neutral safety switch. So turbo 400, go Holly. But if they're going to bring in like a 4L80 or something like that, man, stock ECU can make them drive nice.
Yeah. Well, and also on a deal like that, you're crazy not to put like a modern trans in it. They're good enough now, and the tuning's good enough. If you're doing a modern trans, you're not going to want to do an aftermarket ECU.
Yeah.
Because most of those can't handle.
They don't play nice.
Yeah, they don't do it well.
Yeah.
Like they can do it, some of them, but not like smoothly like the OEM stuff will do it.
Yeah.
It's going to be unhappy.
Yeah.
In some scenario, it's going to feel weird.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I guess the swap stuff, that's a weird one to me because the Global B as well is what I wanted to hear about. We kind of made it sound like a boogeyman.
It still is. It's very much a boogeyman.
So Global B is what all the new Corvettes have, all the C8s.
Correct. Right. C8s, the like 22 and a half, they call them the refresh trucks, Escalade Vs. I mean, eventually everything's going to be
Did
over to it.
Camaros ever get them? Even at the end, I wonder?
Not that I've seen yet, but I do know, I mean, obviously 24s and 25s are out. I don't know that I've tuned one of those yet.
Yeah.
But 22, 23, they were still the older style ECU.
Interesting, because they did discontinue the 6th gen, so I wonder if they put like a little last hurrah of
Right.
like, here, we're going to throw some Global B in a few of them.
It's possible. I wouldn't put it past GM whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, they might have just had no more of the old ECUs left, and they're just like, well,
Yeah.
this is what you get now.
But yeah, the Global B, it's good. It's a really good system, and like 24 trucks have gotten widebands now. The Escalade V has widebands in it now, so GM's definitely progressing, but it is
Took them.
it's early in the game on those because they were obviously it took a little while to get the ECUs unlocked, and then they're still struggling with some of the TCMs to get unlocked. So it's just we're early in the stage on Global B. So basically, any Global B vehicle, you're the test dummy essentially. C8s they have nailed down a little bit more.
Still, and it's been 4 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But you got to think they haven't been unlocked, but for what, a year and a half?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and guys are having to sort through like the DCT stuff. And then you also have to have the customers that want to actually work on them. Because like the C8, I don't know if you know this or not, but the fuel injector tip is smaller than the normal LT stuff. So they're limited on injector options. So you could put, an LT1 head or LT4 head on there and go to the older style injector. But they're changing little details like that are making it harder to mod, which obviously we know GM doesn't really care about that, but we sure do.
It'd be nice if they thought about it a little bit. I
Yeah.
mean, even the new Mustangs are still unlocked, and I don't understand, like, they're still locked. I don't understand why these OEMs are so dead set on making it so difficult for the aftermarket. Like, what do they gain from doing that?
Man, I have no idea. Like, I wish it wasn't that way, but that's the route it's going.
So what have you done with the C8s then? I know we talked, and I know Sissio was having problems.
Yeah.
He talked about it here,
Yep.
and then you were able to help them a little bit on some of their C8s.
Yeah, we weren't able to get it at that time. We weren't able to get the rev limiter completely gone, but I think we got it up like another 400 or 500 RPM, which is a lot.
Yeah.
But now they actually have a patch to where you can get the RPM up there now.
So what was the problem again?
It come down to the way he described it, because at that point I hadn't touched the C8. But the way he was describing it is he was saying that the TCM was causing the rev limiter. Well, the TCM can only do what the ECM allows. So if you tell the ECU, hey, we're not going to limit any airflow whatsoever, it'll just let it go. And so that was the same thing I had with the red truck. The giveaway truck we had on the dyno, and I could only get like 6,300 RPM out of it. But as I started getting in there and disabling airflow limiters and moving things around, just trying to see what would work, next thing you know, it's revving to 7,000 RPM. And that was a game changer for us.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge that's a huge amount more power.
Yeah.
Especially when it wants to be up there in the power band, I'm sure.
But the biggest thing on Global B is just it is a LIN-based network versus CAN. So there's a lot of things talking to each other. And you can't just swap out a MAF like you could before. Like it's very specific parts.
Yeah.
So guys are just learning the limits of it. I've even had a couple guys trying to actually Global B swap an older vehicle. And that's tricky.
Why would anybody do that?
Well, because right now those swaps are actually pretty cheap. I mean, you pick up a wrecked truck, and because they're not being swapped, they're not really in demand.
Yeah.
So it works out. I mean, you pick up a wrecked truck for $4,000 or $5,000, and it may have a 5.3 with a 10L80 in it, and I mean that's a really good combo for an old hot rod.
Yeah, I mean, if you swap it and don't want to tune it, I guess it's fine.
Yeah.
If you're just putting a 5.3 in a in whatever, seems reasonable. But again, I guess it's so hard for me to get past the struggle of the tuning, and hopefully it opens up more, and in 2 years we're going to be laughing about the C8 stuff. But the C8 stuff to me is such a point of frustration because the C7 stuff was so fast. It was immediately people were going, 8s and 9s, like, there was like a competition to there was shop contests to go 8s and 9s on C7s. And then the C8s, it's like we're talking about contests to go 10s.
Right. Well, and then they're piggybacking like fuel tech and things on there just to try to make things work, and it's a headache. Because the biggest thing is if you're bringing in fuel from an external source, that's fuel that the stock ECU doesn't know about. Mm-hmm. Well, then if the stock ECU doesn't know about that fuel, it doesn't know about that torque. Well, that clutch, that DCT, needs correct torque values to actually work properly. So if you don't give it that, then you're going to run into slippage or gear bind or whatever all they were running into.
Well, that's an interesting one too. So what you touched on there, I think a lot of people would love more of an explanation on is how GM looks at torque instead of really anything else.
Right. And they've been doing it for a while. So even a 99 Silverado with a 4L60E, guys are getting in there tuning those. They don't realize that it's torque based. But if you look at the actual base pressure tables, the axis is actually in torque. So if you put these Bosch 210s in there and you don't scale the airflow model correctly, the torque is wrong. Well, if the torque is wrong, you may only get half line pressure or half shift times. Like it'll just mess with it in such a manner that it confuses people, and then people just think, oh, that transmission's junk. No, you fed it bad info.
And what is the stock ECU doing to measure torque?
So it's just basically converting airflow over. So you've got, in the later stuff, you can build your own torque model, whereas the earlier stuff you really couldn't. But basically it understands that at this injector pulse width, if you tell it the correct injector data, then it knows at that injector pulse width how much fuel flow is coming out. Mm-hmm. So if it knows the fuel flow, then it knows the airflow. If it knows the airflow equals torque. You can literally convert an airflow number into kilowatts, and then obviously we can go from there.
Interesting. Yeah. So I've always heard people talk about, injector flow data is how much injector flow you have is really how much power you're making. There's no real hiding that.
No, and that's where the tune starts. So if you've got guys that don't know how to properly scale the injectors, it all goes downhill. It's bad.
Everything's a mess from there.
It really is.
Well, that's where it's nice too with like the aftermarket ECU stuff is you buy injectors that have data.
Right.
Because then that helps your tuner.
Yeah.
If you buy injectors that don't have data, you're just kind of pissing in the wind in a way where you have to figure it out on your own. And I don't know how much you can put into a factory ECU type of deal.
I mean, some have limits, but I mean, you can pretty much scale any injector to fit in a stock ECU. You just may have to make other adjustments elsewhere in the tune. Yeah. But you can still make it read accurate torque. So you can put a set of Bosch 210s in a CTSV. Well, the CTSV is only good to 127 pound per hour, and you've got a 210 pound per hour injector. But you can scale it and actually have the torque model be correct for that 6L90 to make the shift. And the 6L90 can, you'd be surprised, even 700 foot-pounds of torque on a stock tune, it'll shift if it understands that it's making 700 foot-pounds of torque.
It's probably weird for people to think, too, even not just people, but me. It's weird to think that the injectors, what they're doing is so dependent for how the trans is shifting that those two are communicating. Because you wouldn't think that. You'd think, oh, the trans sees RPM and how fast it's getting to RPM, and that's it. And it just needs to know those two things.
Yeah, and then on GM, most of the time, the thing that's feeding the ECU, the airflow reading, is the mass airflow sensor. So a lot of transmission shops, if you go in and take your 4L60 or 4L80 vehicle in and it's got a bad trans, usually they'll blame it on the MAF. And it's because MAF outputs incorrect airflow model, trans has incorrect torque, therefore it makes incorrect line pressure. It all goes bad.
So if your trans shop isn't blaming it on the MAF, they probably don't know what they're talking about on the tuning side of things. Because you kind of should be like, at least know that the MAF is going to be potentially a problem.
Well, the MAF can be a problem, especially like the 3/4 ton trucks, vacuum leaks. I'm starting to see a lot of the 6 liters having intake gaskets bad. The broken heads of the exhaust manifold bolts, that will also skew the airflow model. I mean, it's all of it.
A lot of little shit.
It is.
I mean, especially when you hear vacuum lines on a 90s 2000 truck, it's like, oh yeah, I'm sure they're all freaking cooked.
Yeah.
You look at them wrong and they're like, oh man, they're all ruined.
Yeah, but that broken evap line could actually cause your transmission to fail.
That's so weird that they're so deeply connected, because it's got to be such a point of frustration for your average guy that's doesn't understand the data they're interpreting or seeing, and isn't able to easily translate that into like, let me check my vacuum lines because my trans isn't shifting right.
Right. And that's majority of my job with remote tuning is not the tuning part. I'll have vehicles where I may have 36 to 40 emails before I even send them another revision, because if we find a mechanical issue, cool part is if your injector data is correct, they give you, I don't know, say a common cold air intake or stock airbox or something like that. I have all these known good values. Well, then if the torque is incorrect, something's wrong. So even the other day, we had a 2020 Silverado that had I think a truck Norris cam or something in there, and sent him the base file. He sends me the data log. It's making terrible manifold vacuum. Timing's all over the place. Nothing is actually looking correct. And I told him, I'm like, man, it should be making way more manifold vacuum than that. I need you to check and see what's going on. Come to find out, it was out of time, camshaft-wise, and bent 4 intake valves.
Oh, yeah, that'll mess up your vacuum a little bit.
But some guys that don't understand the diagnosing process would have tried to tune around it, and that wouldn't have been good, because you got 4 broken or 4 bent intake valves will become 4 broken intake valves, and usually hole and block.
Yeah. Well, some people too would dispute your judgment and go to a different tuner.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he didn't know what he was talking about. This thing's fine.
And that happens less now. I've learned that the more information I put out for people, the more that they understand that we can break this stuff down into simpler terms, and we can have the average person actually working on their own tune, as long as they understand the little details like the vacuum leaks and the burnt plug wires and all that stuff. As long as they understand that, be surprised at what these end users can actually do.
Man, I mean, timing in LS is pretty simple, dot to dot.
Yeah. And then throw 26 degrees of ignition timing and you're set.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like when you're putting that cam in, you see the sprocket and the 3 bolts, and you're like dot to dot.
Yeah.
It's as easy as it can be.
Yeah.
You see some other motors, and you're like, I don't know about all that.
Yeah.
It's like the Coyotes, and they got 3 different, timing rings on there.
Oh, those things are a nightmare to time.
Like,
Even the Dodges or the Hemis, if I remember right, I think the dot goes up and then the next one's at like 5 o'clock or something.
that makes a lot of sense.
You're right, exactly.
Stellantis for you.
But I mean, Dodge guys, I'm sure they know that and it's not a big deal. But to me, in my head, it should just be dot to dot.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah.
Like the LS ones, they're just like right there.
But I will tell you that here lately, I've actually been recommending people degree in their camshafts because dot to dot sometimes doesn't work. And I've actually had customers find that their camshaft was ground on the wrong core and the whole cam was shifted like 13 degrees. And so if you'd have done dot to dot, you'd have bent every intake valve in it.
Yeah, well, that's not your fault. I mean,
Right.
dude, how are you going to know that?
Well, cam degreeing
I
does
guess
help. So
makes sense. Huh.
Yeah.
I guess I shouldn't trust cams so blindly.
I mean, I would prefer you not to, but you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been known to, trust a camshaft.
Yeah. What makes it worse is, a lot of these guys, they want such a big camshaft where there's so little piston to valve clearance that if it is off, it's going to be bad.
Yeah, that would definitely make it worse. I mean, like the 2J is a little simpler. They're right on top.
Yeah.
They're right there at all times. You can just check them.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a whole engine tear down, turbo kit off, and all that bullshit that an LS has to go through. I always wish that they made those things 2-piece timing covers too, just so you can easily check
it, yeah.
without pulling the balancer.
Yeah. But that's my goal, is just to educate people on the little details that are commonly overlooked that will absolutely wreak havoc on their project. I've got guys that'll hit me up saying that their vehicles had this problem for a year and nobody's found it. And it would be something so basic. Mm-hmm. I've had guys now, I don't know if you know this or not, but there's some clone NGK spark plugs on Amazon.
I did not know that. That's worrying.
And that wreaks a lot of havoc with people. So I've had to tell them, go to your local parts store and get your plugs. Don't try to order them on Amazon.
Do we trust the parts stores?
I feel like they're
more.
I feel like they're more trustworthy.
Yeah, maybe. Do we trust Rock Auto at least?
I trust Rock Auto.
Okay.
I love Rock Auto.
Rock Auto, I feel like, has NGK spark plugs as well. I feel like I've gotten them from there before.
Yeah, I have to.
Well, the problem is, too, they've went from like $6 to $8 to $10 a plug on us in the last like year and a half, and it's probably going to go to $15 a plug before we know it.
Yeah. But like the biggest issue is that, and then guys using generic sensors, like your parts store crankshaft sensor. I don't think I've ever had one good parts store brand crankshaft sensor in LS. Or camshaft sensor is another one. You'll put a brand new camshaft sensor in there, and then you'll get that hard start or the pop that everybody hears, and it's a bad sensor, brand new. So I try to educate people on get good sensors, good injectors, check for vacuum leaks, check for the little stuff like that. And you'd be surprised. I mean, your combo doesn't have to have the most expensive valve train or nicest heads or whatever. You can make one run good if you just are detail oriented.
Well, the vacuum stuff, I mean, that's a simple one. And also, I mean, now you can get a smoke machine for so cheap, too.
I'm probably Amazon's #1 seller of smoke machines.
They're so cheap.
Yeah.
Even I see them on TikTok Shop and stuff, too, where it's like $20 for a freaking smoke machine.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of worth it if you got a car that's so reliant on vacuum.
I would basically recommend any hot rod guy to have a smoke machine. It just makes life so much simpler. And, the modern vehicles with brake clean and finding vacuum leaks, it's harder to do than you would think.
Yeah.
A lot of these intake manifolds, the way they're shaped, you may not even get the brake clean in the right spot at the right time to actually even hear the engine change.
Yeah, so what he's talking about is the way that I've done it in the past as well, is you run the car, you spray brake clean until you hear it rev up a little bit and it sucks them in.
Yep.
Then you know where the leak is.
Yeah, it's just not as efficient anymore. Yeah. And there's so many, with the EVAP stuff and even the earlier LS stuff with the vacuum operated cruise control modules and things like that. There's too many points of failure. It's so easy just to take a $60 smoke machine and fill it up and check it.
Well, some of them are running to the back of the car and to the fuel tank and stuff. And it's how are you going to check that? You're going to spray brake clean back there and make sure. And even stupid things like brake boosters that don't have a check ball in them and
I would say the number one thing is injector O-rings not fitting correctly. When you put an injector O-ring in there, it should be pretty snug. Well, there's some O-rings that are just slightly off. And I had an email today. A guy said that he smoke tested his car and all 8 injector O-rings were leaking.
O-rings scare me on injectors.
Yeah.
I've seen more fires from O-ring.
So funny thing, I don't know if
they're cheap.
I don't know if you even know this or remember this, but the first time I talked to you, I actually came up to you at one of the events and told you that the 240 had a fuel rail leaking.
I do remember that.
It's like probably 4 years ago, I think.
I wonder, I can't remember what was leaking on it, if it was a loose fitting or something.
I think it was actual injector O-ring, like railed injector O-ring. And then you were going to go do a burnout. And I'm like, hey, man, I don't want your car to catch on fire.
Yeah, I think I remember thinking, like, it's okay if it catches on fire.
That's exactly what you said.
Yeah, that does sound like me. Yeah, I mean, there's not that much to it, so it wouldn't be the worst fire. You see, like, these, Cadillacs and stuff burn down, and it's detrimental. But, an all-steel 240,
it'd be fine.
It's just cosmetic.
Yeah.
I've seen James's car catch on fire, and it didn't even look like there was a fire there.
Yeah. But that's one of the reasons why I work in the background for a lot of people is I'm usually the guy that goes in and just tries to find the little stuff that's wrong, because I'm telling you, that littlest stuff, and it makes the biggest difference in how a vehicle runs.
You would hope that your tuner's very detail-oriented on that stuff, right? It's kind of
You would hope, but the thing is tuning software and laptops is easily accessible now. And it's the knowledge to actually just get started into it is so accessible that it leads us to a bad time sometimes.
Yeah. And I've learned also with some tuners, the best ones are the ones you don't hear about all the time.
Right.
Which is a weird thing. Like, sometimes there's like these secret, really good tuners that aren't as loud as some other tuners.
Yeah, well, most tuners aren't people, like people, I guess is the best way to put it. I'm not a people person whatsoever. I like coming to these events and hanging out with the people that I care about, but you get me into a big crowd of people that I don't like, because that's where my brain goes. I don't like them.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything wrong. I just don't like them.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Being socially awkward. That's part of our job title.
Tuning. It is how you got to do it. I mean,
now, I'm not as bad as Alpha. Alpha's very shy.
Alpha's a lot less outgoing, but the people he likes, he's very outgoing to.
Very much so.
And he's like, we'll send you a random WhatsApp is his go-to. It's just like, he'll just like fire off WhatsApps out of nowhere to me. And I'm like, they're like 4 a.m. usually.
Has he tried to get you to trade stocks yet?
No, he hasn't pushed me for that one
It's
yet.
coming.
I wonder what he'll push me towards. It's a good time to buy currently, maybe.
I don't know. I hope he's still profitable right now.
Yeah. It's been pretty bad these last few months for stocks.
Yeah. But yeah, I tried to be elusive for a very long time, just because obviously what we do isn't necessarily the most friendly thing.
Yeah.
I guess that's the best way to put it.
Well, you get to talk to people through email, which gives a nice... There's a great thing about email, too, is everything's there in the history.
Yeah.
So, like, when you have a phone call with somebody, it sucks because you could tell them to do 14 things and in one ear out the other, and they did one of them wrong.
Well, see, like, when I'm working on the dyno, I'm always everybody's... like, I'm their favorite person until I approach them with a problem with their vehicle. And then they hate me because I'm just blunt about it. I'm like, look, man, we got to fix this, this, and this. There's some guys that'll try to tune around it. But to me, I'm sure you've heard people talking about tunes going bad. Mm-hmm. That's what it's from traditionally is usually it's something that was tuned around a mechanical issue. Mechanical issue was fixed, and they didn't know they fixed it. They may have found the vacuum cap that was missing or whatever. And then all of a sudden their vehicle runs terribly, but the tune went bad. And so I'm not that kind of person.
Yeah, the tune expired. It's like converters, they expire too, right?
Yeah.
That was the whole slobby thing.
But otherwise, if everything's going mechanically great, like they're taking videos of you on the dyno, which is another thing that's kind of weird. Have you ever wanted to like be in a fishbowl? Because that's essentially what my job is.
Just on a dyno.
I mean, I'm zoned in because people have to understand that this is my job. It's their hobby, but it's my job.
Yeah.
And so say you're, I don't know, construction worker or whatever. Do you want somebody just staring at you the entire time? Because their eyes don't leave you.
Yeah.
I mean, they are locked in. So sometimes I like the cars with tinted windows, and I'll just roll up the window and just get my blinder on. And
well, I think I've seen, National Speed up in North Carolina, that big facility where they had like a dyno viewing, like big window and like a bunch of chairs. You get to watch your car on the dyno. It's like, oh, I'm sure tuners love that.
Yeah. So that was another reason why I was elusive, is because you got to think, like, I already don't really want people to watch me tune. But then when Garrett needs me to tune something, I'm zoned in on my laptop. And then next thing you know, I look up and there's a phone in my face and he's coming at me with a question. My brain's just trying to process what I'm looking at on the screen. So then I'm just like deer in headlights all of a sudden.
Yeah. Well, I know like it took Nate a little while to get comfortable with it. And Nate's got his own anxieties about weird things.
He does.
And stuff, you know, bridges and helicopters.
Yeah,
and
anything above like 8 feet off the ground, he's terrified of it.
The guy that worked at an airport.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Isn't that ironic though? I mean,
won't fly. Worked at an airport. Yeah, it's definitely definitely a funny one. And Skyway, which you have to go over constantly.
Yeah, that surprisingly doesn't bother him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really strange. He just picks and chooses. But
because I had a roommate that was terrified of Skyway. He was like,
really?
Oh, he was like, I'm just gonna close my eyes and let me know when it's over. And
and
I'm sure you've gone over it a million times because now suddenly you've picked up a residency, it seems, in Florida.
Well, I mean, I even told Garrett, I'm going to try to buy a couple of those houses that are being built behind the track just to have the Airbnb or use when I'm down here. Or,
I mean, you've been spending a lot more time down in this parts, it seems.
Yeah.
In the last, I don't know, 8 months, I guess.
Yeah, well, there's a lot less hustle and bustle down here. You know, like in Nashville, I mean, everybody is just everywhere, and it's, my brain can't handle it.
I mean, the only times I've been to Nashville, it seems just very tourist and party.
It is.
And that seems like to me, is not it.
No.
Not interested.
I enjoy it when, like, if you come up or Garrett comes up or somebody comes up, I enjoy showing them the craziness, but I don't necessarily like being in the craziness.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you work for any of the other, touch base with any of the other YouTubers up that way? Because there's quite a few in that area, too.
I mean, not really. I guess we got Derek that lives up there, you know, Whistling Diesel. But no, I mean, I'll see them at the events down here. I don't ever really see them up there.
You hear we got an animal up top?
Is that what that is?
It. I think so. I don't. Sometimes birds get in here, but that sounds like it might be a rodent. So that's exciting. Could be a squirrel, could be a mouse, or could be a rat.
Yeah.
We are in a shop. We are in a garage.
Yeah.
But it's unsettling to know that I'm gonna have to catch that thing.
Yeah. No, I tune for a lot of music artists. So I don't really deal with the YouTubers as much, but I get a lot of them.
Oh, yeah, because you were the one that connected Garrett with Chase then, right?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then he ended up performing. He's been around. He's done burnout contests.
Yep, he races on Friday. I'll be his spotter.
Oh, is he racing?
Yeah, Freedom 500.
I didn't realize he was in the Freedom 500 too. That's cool.
Coming in with no practice because he's got a show in, I think, Tallahassee on Thursday. So he's never been in a circle track car, never done anything. His first drive in the Crown Vic is going to be qualifying.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There's only a couple NASCAR drivers this time.
Right.
You know, it's a little light field on NASCAR drivers. Only, it may be what? Didn't he win just top 100 NASCAR drivers of all time?
I mean, probably.
Greg Biffle.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But then it's like, what sucks is if Chase rolls right in qualifying and they invert the field, because he's going to qualify last. Well, then they invert the field and he's going to be in first.
Yeah.
And then you got 25 guys that actually know how to drive right behind you. So we'll see. I mean, he's ballsy.
Well, that happened to me one time, and it's very unsettling.
Yeah, I'm sure.
To be in the back.
Which I liked your tactic, I think, at Indy, where you just held back like half a track for a while. That was, you know, I'm not the best circle track driver, not even top 10,000, but I didn't feel comfortable when people were behind me. Yeah.
And that's a very bad mindset to have if you're trying to be a race car driver and lead a pack. I was like, I didn't like people like being right in my peripherals, and like, I was like, somebody's going to spin me out. I'm going to be put into this wall. And I definitely won't finish this race. Yeah. At least if no one's behind me, I can for sure try to win this deal. Yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting one. So you're also saying you use ChatGPT to help you with some math.
I do. I kind of knew that was coming. Yeah.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of using it for simple things or things that would take time. And there's no reason why you should waste time doing them if they're fairly simple. Yeah, and time consuming.
It comes down to what we were talking about earlier about, you know, injector flow rates and things like that. Like, we have so many fixed variables in the engine that we know. the engine, a lot of guys will say an engine is an air pump, but an engine is also just full of math. Have you ever seen any of those engine dyno softwares where guys can change camshaft specs and an intake valve size and runner length and things like that? Have you ever seen one of those?
No, so it's like almost like a CAD software that'll.
It is.
Like engineers use it for like how strong a bridge will be.
Right.
They can do,
So we can do that with engines. And so what's cool is like even something basic in terms of necessity of the engine, like Gen 5 LT, they have injection timing. Well, with the injection timing, it really does need to be on time because you have a quarter of the amount of time to inject fuel as what you do with a port injected vehicle.
Yeah.
Well, you can give ChatGPT, say I can tell it, all right, here's the injector size, here's the factory start of injection timing table. I'm putting this camshaft in with these injectors. How is this table going to change? And it can mathematically calculate that. It's not going to be a set in stone thing, but it'll get you in the ballpark. So if it saves me 15 minutes of math, I'm going to use it. But then you also have simple things like injector flow rate, say from a different era of vehicle where you don't have the exact injector data. ChatGPT, give it the old injector data, tell it what you want it to spit out. It'll build you an Excel sheet. Because you ever worked on Microsoft Excel?
Yeah.
It takes forever to input all that.
Yeah, just the amount of time just to do it is so tedious.
Yeah, so it'll spit it out in 15 seconds, 20 seconds, something like that.
Yeah.
But it's gotten to where, so with HP tuners, you can export logs to a CSV file. So ChatGPT can't work the editor, but it can process the data from the scanner. So theoretically, you could tune an early ECU with ChatGPT because as long as you know how to get the information out of your scanner, whether it be fuel trims, wideband data, whatever, ChatGPT can process that, and it could export you out a math calibration. If you tell it, all right, I'm using this math calibration, I've got these wideband values, and you ask it to fix it for you, it actually will.
See, that sounds like a cool video title to me is ChatGPT tuned my car.
I almost thought about if we're working with the Escalade V, I thought about doing a video and have ChatGPT tune the neural network on the Escalade V.
Yeah. Or, I mean, that would be pretty cool too.
Yeah. Just blow everybody's mind because neural network is already like the taboo subject of Global B.
Well, it's funny even hearing neural network when we're talking about like a car ECU.
Yeah.
Like that, those two things don't need to overlap, and it's so weird hearing them.
It is.
Together.
And the thing is it's new to us, but it's not new.
Yeah.
So ChatGPT fully understands a neural network. You can tell it if you want it to change the axis that you're working on, anything you needed to change, it'll tell you. If it can't tell you the exact figures, it'll at least tell you how to get to that point.
It's also weird because, I mean, what is ChatGPT, 2 years old?
Yeah, it's a baby.
Like this is just the start. The more and it'll remember you. The more data you feed it.
Oh yeah.
It's weird how it like remembers the person that you've like. Because I talk to a lot of people and they're like, "Yeah, I've never played around with it." I'm like,
yeah, it's good.
It's weird.
It is.
Once you start playing around with it, you're like, "Oh, this will just replace a lot of the other things I use on a daily basis."
Yeah. That's like the other day I had some Ford injectors that were being used in an LS application, and I just told ChatGPT, hey, I want an Excel sheet for these Ford injectors into this GM vehicle. Here's the Ford data. Here's what the table looks like I want you to convert it to. And not only did it do it, but because I've asked it to do so many Excel sheets, it formatted it. Like it made the colors the way I like them. It gave me basically like a heat map kind of thing, but it remembered me.
Yeah.
And so those little details are the difference between, if you've got somebody that's tuning a vehicle, sometimes guys will just go in there and they'll just tune the math V, knock out some timing, call it good. But when you're wanting to be detail oriented, it takes a lot of time to convert this data over to something that the ECU is actually happy with. So even, was it a couple of days ago, when you saw that post, I was tuning on an 03 Corvette Z06, and it had just a mild camshaft in there. But in those cars, there is a table that is idle torque versus AC pressure. And I've tuned so many of those cars, I already have known good tables. So I was curious, can ChatGPT figure this out? So I flat out told it, I was like, hey, I want you to build me user math to log this. So I had it go all the way from the beginning. It built the user math to actually log the AC pressure for me, because that's not a PID that you can actually see in HP tuners for whatever reason. So it built the user math for me. It told me how to build the histogram or chart, whatever they're calling it now. And then it literally told me exactly what PIDs it needed to be fed to build me a table. It was within like a tenth of a foot-pound of torque off of what I had from probably, I don't know, 20 or 30 hours worth of tuning on the AC pressure versus torque table. And it did this, 30 seconds.
Well, then the question arises, do you think that theirs was better?
It's very possible.
Like, you know what I mean? Because, like, okay, it may have been a little different, but that doesn't mean that yours was the perfect scenario.
Right.
It may have just been, like, maybe not even noticeably different, but just noticeably slightly.
But I'm okay with that.
I mean, when you're talking about, I don't know, 1,000 boxes, it can change those instantly, where it would take any tuner and they're scaling and they're doing all this stuff instead of just changing box by box.
Right. It's
not smoothing. It's box by box.
Yeah. But see, that's where I want a perfect tune, or as perfect as possible.
Yeah.
And so if ChatGPT and math can get me there, I'm not going to be this, chest pounding tuner of, no, I'm not going to let it do it. Like, no, let's evolve with the sport.
Yeah.
And let's let it do its work, because, an 03 Z06 Corvette is one of the most primitive, LS computers out there. But the fact that it can still be beneficial on an old ECU, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, people that don't do this stuff are just going to get left behind.
Right.
And if you can get to a point where you scale up your tunes and quality, but even like scale down your price, but scale up your speed, that's like the perfect. And scaling up delivery speed is crazy in itself, because we live in a very instantaneous world where somebody expects an email reply.
Well,
at 24/7.
Right. They have to understand that. But that is one thing that I would like to train ChatGPT to do, is I would like for it to actually learn to respond how I would respond via email.
Yeah, I actually helped. I was helping somebody set one of those up where, they've written papers and books and things like that. And I was like, yeah, like we can input a lot of this and people can read it. People can send you messages and it'll know your information and how you think because of this. And there's even ways that you can sell it as like a subscription service to contact you directly, but you're really just talking to a chat bot 24/7. Some people use them for like OnlyFans stuff, but I feel like there's a way better use case than porn. But I guess it's the internet, and porn is what half paved the way of it.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to figure out ways of advancing what we do and produce a better product. And because that's, to me, tuners almost have like this like storm cloud over them, because you don't know if they're going to be good, you don't know if they're going to be bad. And that's where social media comes into play, where usually the names that you hear about the most, everybody assumes because you hear about them the most, that means they're the best. Well, it's not. And realistically, to me, in my mind, if I'm seeing somebody constantly post on social media, they're not busy. And if they're not busy, how can they be the best? So I like to break this stuff down to the point of, I want to teach it. I want to make tunes better. I want other tuners to work with each other and not be assholes to each other. Because that's our biggest issue right now, is you'll get the egos between tuners, and this tuner said he can make however much more power. And it's just like this big, just basically pissing match.
Yeah, I've heard of tuners like, I'll make more power or your money back. And I'm like, that's a crazy claim.
It is.
Because like, what are you doing to make that extra little bit of horsepower?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing with tuners is usually you've got the young tuners that come in, and it's nothing, it's not a big deal that they do this, but it's not ideal, is they will push one on the dyno till the point where there's not 1 horsepower left. As they progress in their tuning career, they realize that is harmful to the engine, because the dyno is not necessarily going to simulate the exact load as what the road is or drag strip or whatever. So they learn to dial it back. Well, then the cycle starts again. So you get to the point where you're super experienced as a tuner. You're leaving, say on a turbo application, you may leave 40, 50, 60 horsepower on the table.
Yeah.
New tuner comes in, finds that power, assumes that he's just got it nailed down and, oh, I'm better. And it's just like a nonstop cycle.
Yeah, I always have to fall back to like ask people like, all right, well, what mile an hour did it do in the quarter? Because like, ET can kind of lie. Yeah. But like, what did it run mile per hour? Because that will tell me exactly how much horsepower it's making. Yeah. No matter how heavy it is, no matter how the truck, car, mile an hour doesn't lie. Right. It's kind of like dynos can be heartbreakers, but mile an hour will really be a heartbreaker on a car.
Yeah.
And it's that one. But yeah, leaving power on the table is nice because I've always heard that one too. It's like cars pick up on the street. There's airflow that's different. They're operating differently. A Corvette Z06 is supposed to be getting airflow into it, not stagnant in a hot room.
Right.
And some dyno rooms are like a room.
Yeah. With very inefficient fans usually. So, if you've got like a little squirrel cage or something in front of it, don't get me wrong, it works. But you're not simulating 90 mile an hour air across the front of the car.
Yeah. I know, and I've heard some pulls that people are just like doing a pull for so long, and I'm like, what are we doing here, please?
I actually like that though, because that's usually simulating actual road load.
That does make more sense.
So when I'm doing actual dyno power pulls, I try to keep them 6 to 8 seconds, and I'll adjust the eddy brake to achieve that. But when I'm actually tuning one, I'll actually put it in vehicle simulation mode. And if you're in a we'll say a 6th-gen Camaro, it's got some bolt-ons, and say I'm wanting to simulate road load in third, and I want to start at 2,500 RPM, think about how long it'd take that car to accelerate on the street, 2,500 RPM to 6,500 RPM. It'd be a while. Mm-hmm.
You'd be on the gas for a bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's nothing for me to have, 35, 40-second watt pulls, but the thing is if you're tuning it properly, it's not going to hurt anything.
Yeah.
Guys do that all the time. I'll send out base files, and next thing you know, guys are sending me videos of them doing street pulls that they shouldn't be doing on a base file, and it's like, man, you're brave.
Well, I have a bit of dyno anxiety. Like,
do you?
Like anytime my Camaro's ever been on the dyno, I'm like backing away. I don't want to look. I'm like biting my nails. I'm like, but I'll get in there, let off the button.
Yeah.
No worries at all.
Well, have you been?
And that is far worse. Me up on the trans brake, letting off the button, than what he's doing on the dyno. But to me, it's just like.
But have you been on the dyno with Alpha there?
Yes.
Okay. So Alpha is funny because he'll tune. He's working on fuel tables and stuff, but he'll have the car so pulled back on power where you're seeing 800, 900 horsepower out of your combo, and he's just beating the brakes off the car, but it's not actually hurting anything because he's doing it the correct way. And then you're like, man, I thought this thing was going to make more power. He's like, oh, it will. Next thing you know, it's 1,100 horsepower, 1,200 horsepower, and he actually puts the power back in it. And that's how I do it. So I'll build fuel maps on the dyno with vehicle simulation, but I'll have everything pulled back to where it's not harming the thing. I could just stand on the throttle to the point where it runs out of gas and it would be fine. Mm-hmm. That's, to me, how it's supposed to be done. But when you get these little 2 and 3 second long dyno runs, that isn't even enough time for the wideband to accurately react to what's going on in the engine. Because you got to think there's a time delay.
Yeah.
If your wideband, especially if wideband's in a tailpipe, how much time it takes to travel the distance of that car. I mean, you may be adjusting fueling in one spot, but it's actually happening in a totally different spot. So I like those big loads. That didn't sound right, but
they like I said, I get dyno anxiety all the time on every car I've ever had on the dyno. I hate it, but I'll go make a street rib. Yeah. I'll go to the track and get up on the brake, do burnouts, all that stuff. Not a care in the world. But the second I'm near that thing on the dyno, not a fan.
Yeah.
And a lot of dyno operators, even Alpha, honestly, in my car, should probably be wearing fire protection. In my deal.
Yeah.
Like it's that level of race car. It's like right there. I mean, if I'm doing a hit in racing gear, you probably should be as well.
Yeah, I purposely don't tune race cars for that reason, essentially. They're getting so powerful nowadays that the cars it's almost not even fun to have them on the dyno anymore.
Yeah.
It's so much heat, and you're having to put 5, 6, 7 straps on the back to keep them actually hooked up, and then you're shredding the customer's drag radials, which sucks. So I just like to just get one worked in, super low boost or whatever, and then send them on their way. But I want to inform them how to tune their car, because my goal is let me build the base file, let me make sure that the injector data is right, timing tables in a ballpark of where that engine's probably going to want it to be, but inform the customer on how to tune their own car from that point on. Let them build their own boost ramps and timing retards and things like that, because I don't want to be available at 3 o'clock in the morning when they're doing street hits. Like, I don't. Like it used to be a cool idea, but
Yeah,
man,
but you can't be. It's not even.
Right.
It's not feasible. Like they have to learn to be self-sufficient if
Right.
you're going to race this car.
yeah. So that's the reason why I produce content about this stuff is I want the end user to know what they're getting into. I want the end user to be educated on who's a good tuner and who's not. So the best way I feel like to do it is give the information where I can help these younger tuners get better. I'm helping the end user make more sound decisions on mechanical parts, getting quality injectors, things like that, and just try to marry everything together to where they actually have a recipe that they can be successful with.
And you've not gone down the path of selling parts.
No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, because a lot of tuners will, because they end up falling into this where they start to only trust a few parts.
Yeah.
You start to really distrust like everything on the market.
Yep.
Because you've seen it enough. Like the average guy hasn't seen those injectors fail 85 times out of 90. So it's like, of course he doesn't think that it's a problem. But then, like a tuner is like, well, if you didn't buy it from me, like I tell you what to buy. This is the good stuff.
See, I will give people advice on what I recommend. If they don't buy what I recommend, that's fine. I'm just not their tuner. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's super simple.
Yeah.
But that's the reason. That's also the reason why I personally don't have a race car or anything fast. I've seen so much stuff so broken and so expensive that I'm just like, if I bought a race car, I would probably be terrified to even make a hit in it just because of the cost.
We get it. You're smart enough to have a boat, and we're all dumb enough to have race cars.
I mean, boats and motorcycles.
It's debatable there too with the boat, as they are.
Boats and motorcycles. That's where it's actually at.
What kind of motorcycles? I know there's a lot of two-wheel people out there.
Oh yeah, I've got Harleys.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're a dirt bike guy too.
No, I tried that. I'm not good at it.
Because I know you and JH have known each other for
We have
a long time.
Yeah, since 2005, I think 2006.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
And JH has always been a dirt guy.
he has.
Yeah, he's actually, every time people see him on a dirt bike, they're always impressed because he's a big guy,
Right.
and he throws around a dirt bike like really well.
He's a wheel man in general.
Yeah.
I mean, even the circle track stuff, man, he's really gotten fast.
Yep. It's definitely interesting, and that's crazy. 2005. I mean.
Yeah. Well, it was around that time. Whenever he went to school in Nashville.
Yeah.
'Cause he went to the diesel college. And so I was working at a custom shop where we would do like lift kits and airbags and stuff like that. And he just kind of showed up one day asking for a job, and we weren't hiring, but he just kind of hung around. And Grant, like JH's buddy, was also going to school up there. And so whenever JH went to college, that's when I met him.
Okay, yeah. So around that time.
Yeah.
Huh, that's funny. And then you were working parts installer at the time.
Yep.
Not tuning really, and then got into tuning because
Work smarter, not harder. So when you go home every day, and I mean, I know a lot of these guys know this, but you go home every day and you've got, stains on your hands that take 2 or 3 showers to get gone. And I didn't want to do that. I'm like, there's got to be a better way.
Well, you can't do it forever either.
Right.
Like I grew up, my dad was a fisherman and a roofer.
That's crazy work.
And the one thing he told me was like, I don't want either of my sons to do either of these things.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, fair enough. He's like, I won't allow it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you got it.
But I ended up tuning because I was good at diag, and most good tuners usually started off, I didn't work at a dealership, but I would just work at little shops and help do the diag work. And that's usually what makes a good tuner is the diag part. Like if you've got a tuner that doesn't understand how to diagnose stuff, they're not a good tuner. You want your tuner to be like 90 to 95% diagnostic person, and the rest of it's tuning. Because I could teach anything, including ChatGPT, how to tune.
Yeah.
I can't teach somebody how to find a misfire or vacuum leak or things like that,
I'm just laughing because all of me and Alpha's 80% of me and Alpha's messages are him telling me what was wrong, me not believing him at first, and then finally like, oh no, you were right.
Yeah.
And I'll always admit it. I was always like, you were right, my bad. You nailed it.
Well, at least you admit it, because I'll have some guys that fight me on it to the point where I'm like, look, man, until you fix this, I can't tune your car anymore. And the next thing you know, they go to the next tuner that will happily tune a car with a mechanical issue, and then I look like the bad guy.
Yeah, that's a tough one, is fighting through mechanical issues. And they're expensive too. So like you tell this guy like, hey, your head gaskets are are cooked on this
Yeah.
thing. Like, that's not an easy pill to swallow for a lot of people.
The worst one is the guys with the rebuilt engines, because as I'm sure you're aware, we've got some good machine shops, but we've also got some really bad ones. So these guys, you know, they'll contact me because they need a startup file for their cammed LS, whatever, new injectors, new intake manifold, whatever all they've done. And then 50 miles in, they're down on oil pressure. That sucks.
Yeah. So a quick, simple machine shop vetting, if they can get you right in, they're not a good machine shop. Right. If they tell you it's 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, that is because they are a good machine shop. It goes the same with fab shops.
Yep.
If you need a cage put in your car and they tell you they'll get you right in, bring it by, they're probably not a good fab shop.
Yeah.
Because any one of those two things are months out, maybe a year out by now.
Yeah. Like Ty has a roll cage that he's working on right now where the main hoop was actually cut. I guess because they bent it wrong. They cut it down, welded it up, ground it, didn't sleeve it with metal inside of it, nothing, just sent it. But that roll cage shop was able to get that vehicle right in, though.
Yeah, they're no problem. Yeah. Bring it by today.
Yep.
Yeah, that stuff is terrifying. It should be a long wait. I know any good engine builder, it's going to take time and it sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, machine shop stuff. It's like machine shop jail is a thing where you drop all your parts off and you don't see them because they're also shady for that aspect.
Yeah.
Where they misplaced them all or they ended up in different motors.
Yeah, so as a tuner, I've kind of gotten to the point where I would just like a customer to buy a long block or short block from a reputable company and just get it done that way. Stop rebuilding some of these engines, you know?
Well, that, you know, I've heard Taylor Ray talk about it on like who you ask for advice as you get deeper into the car world.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same with like machine shops or where you can buy like a long block from gets less and less as you deal with more and more people.
I mean, that's true. I'll give you that.
And it's the same with like asking for advice. Like like if you have a problem on your car, the farther and farther you get into the car world and the more knowledge you get, the less people you can ask for the advice because you realize you're like, ah, shit, I can't ask that guy.
Yeah.
Like, there's only select people at that point.
Yeah, but it's to the point now where I would rather a customer bring me a 300,000 mile 5.3. The dirtier, the better, too. A lot of guys, you know, they'll pull the valve cover and they'll see all that sludge and they're like, oh, this thing's trash. No, that's the best ones. Nobody's messed with it. It's that engine will take more abuse than you can possibly imagine. Whereas I'll get a lot of these guys that are, you know, they freshly built strokers and, oh, I'll put new cam bearings in there. Usually as soon as somebody tells me that they put new cam bearings in it, I already just warn them. I'm like, hey, we're probably going to have a failure with this engine.
Never supposed to put the cam bearings in the LS.
You don't look at them. Just if the cam bearing doesn't come out with the camshaft, it's fine.
Yeah. And if you put your cam in gently enough, don't jam that thing in there, you know, use some kind of lubricant, WD-40 for all I care, just something to to keep it from, you know, scuffing up the cam bearing a little bit. Some people haven't watched enough Matt Happel.
I know.
On the
well, and he's a tricky one because he is very smart. And a lot of people assume that because he does stuff cheaply, that means that they can also do it cheaply. They don't realize how much thought process he's actually putting into picking these parts and doing these builds. So guys will try to be sloppy, but they won't take pride in their work. It never works.
Well, there's also sloppy, and then there's just outright dangerous.
Right.
And I started to get like very genuinely scared seeing some of the stuff on that page where I was like, okay, sloppy aside, you can't just like do your brake lines like that. Yeah. Like you know what I mean? Like this isn't a congrats, that was very sloppy moment anymore. Like some things have to be done correctly.
Yeah. Well, it's like, all right, so the event we went to today, the no prep deal, you've got $400,000 cars racing with basically shit boxes.
Yes.
The smartest guys are probably the one in the shit boxes because they've done the research and figure out exactly what it takes to go as fast. So if you got that car that looks like it does with parts that are probably worth a quarter of the price, but it's running the same number, go talk to that guy. Just ask them their advice. Ask them what all they went through. And I've found that those are the guys that are knowledgeable. And to me, Matt Happel was one of those. You know, he's a guy that, you know, he did 8s for 8. That's impressive.
Yeah, mismatched cylinder heads on it and stuff.
Hey, it worked.
Yeah, I mean, it did go 8s. It definitely blew up many a time.
It did.
he kicked rods out of that thing. But 8s is pretty solid feet for a stock bottom end LS deal. I mean, just like an unopened.
Yeah, but those I'm telling you, those are my favorite. Those are the best engines to have.
Were you surprised by the all-wheel drive shootout today?
I was, man. Especially when Garrett beat Beaterbomb, I was floored.
Yeah, that's a pretty hefty accomplishment.
Yeah, which of course the diesel winning it all, that was super impressive.
And like, you know, Garrett has a lot of cars like Leroy and stuff that are like very well dialed in, and like, yes, the truck's probably very dialed in, but it's not Beaterbomb level.
No, it's not
of passes.
No,
I mean, not even close, or Leroy, or even like Eagle.
Yeah, right.
It probably does. It probably has just as many passes as Eagle on it.
Yeah,
to go that fast. I mean, it's probably going 440s, 430s out there.
Yeah,
or 530s. It's pretty stout truck.
But then the fastest one of the day was the diesel running 520s.
I bet that made you a little happy.
Man, I don't know what to think about it, because you've got, you know, guys like that go out of the box and do that kind of stuff. It really is cool. But if you're going to build a race car, you don't start with the heaviest thing that you can buy that has half the RPM of a normal engine, you know? Because if you think about it, you know, he's racing Coyotes that are turning 10,000 RPM. Yeah. He's probably running that motor at 5,000, 5,500.
Yeah, because it's a Cummins in that thing.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a Cummins because it's a Ford truck bodied. But yeah, Cummins are what most of the fast diesel guys run.
But you think about, you know, the Coyotes are literally turning 10,000 RPM today.
It's a real beautiful sound.
Yeah, it really is.
To hear 10,000 RPM V8 go by you.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
But if you look at, like, even when he was lining up, I think his name's Nathan Wheeler, I believe. But when he's lining up and you see the vehicles that he's lining up against, it's like he's literally driving a house. And he's taking that house and going 520s on Virgin Road.
That thing is huge.
Yeah.
I was pretty surprised James wheeling that silver car, too.
He did good.
I didn't realize he was driving that until I saw, like, round 2. I was like, oh shit, James is driving the silver car.
Yeah, and he actually, and that's one thing I'll give him is he potentially could have taken it. Apparently, they made a change on the truck or something, and the truck started to break up like halfway down the track. But apparently, it was on a mission, according to James. You know, but
I mean, that truck seemed like it was the truck to beat.
Yeah.
It was definitely no slouch. He was moving in it, and it looked like they left the same when he raced the diesel. Like if he just had more top end, which that truck should, he should have been able to pull away.
Yep.
Was it actual 8th mile? It looked short.
No, they measured it out. It was 660.
I mean, I heard them say 8th mile. I was like, man, it looks so short.
But I'm curious. I'm curious what the internet's going to look like after today.
After the videos come out, it's going to be tough for some of the rear-wheel drive guys.
It is.
The puddle situation is going to be what they all hold on to.
It is.
They didn't have traction compound.
But they knew that coming into this.
They did. But they'll still hold on to it.
Yeah, it wasn't that Garrett put this out as a competition and didn't make it known. He's like, look, you know, we did our all-wheel drive shootout that they weren't invited to. They got mad because they weren't invited to it. So he didn't change the rules. Yeah. He just said, if you want to come, okay, now you're invited. But you're following our rules. So you can't complain about the rules in somebody else's house.
Well, they agreed to them also. Like him and Joey went back and forth, and they agreed to these rules. And the rear-wheel drive guys were like, oh, well, you know, it's easy to look fast when you don't have any fast guys show up. And then it's like...
But personally, I think after meeting a lot of those guys from today, I don't think it's going to be the drivers of the rear-wheel drive cars starting to stir the pot. You know, I think it's going to be their fans is who's actually raising hell.
I think also because they might know that even if they had a puddle, it still would have been a really close race.
Yeah.
It may have ended the same way for most of them, even if they had some traction compound, because those trucks are very fast.
They are.
They are stupid.
Well, and the thing is when we were watching, of course, everybody will see once the video comes out, but the 60 foots looked similar on those vehicles, and those trucks just top in like crazy.
Yep.
You wouldn't expect it out of a truck, but I mean, you're talking 150 plus miles an hour in a truck that could still be driving. You know, you take it to the gas station right now.
Yeah, their way that they're able to feed in so much power. Is just crazy. I mean, the ramps probably look nutty on those things. They're probably just
I'm sure
almost straight up on some of those Coyote trucks.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool to see. It's interesting because Garrett had one of the few LS ones. I mean, there's a couple.
Yeah, there
There's
was
a couple like GMT 800s out there.
But one of those had a big block in it.
Oh, did
The
it?
black GMC Sierra had a big block in it.
Damn, that thing was pretty nice. It was like a clean street truck.
Yeah, it was a nice truck for sure.
I was like surprised because like you see all the other trucks, they're like cut up and wing and like big wide tires and wheels. That thing looked like streetable.
Yeah, well then there was the other one that had the LS in it that still had the Z71 sticker on the side of it. Like it looked like a stock truck with some wheels on it.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a couple cool ones. And then there's the one, was it the Cyclone that ends
with the Coyote.
Coyote. I know, like that's like kind of blasphemous, but hey.
Well, it's like, have you seen the K-swapped Corvette floating around here lately?
Yeah. Yep. Pretty blasphemous too, and I'm fine with it, Cyclone's a little bit more rare, but it is what it is, I guess, right? Yeah. The Corvettes are kind of a dime a dozen. Camaros, kind of a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
They made quite a few of those. But like a Typhoon or a Cyclone, man.
But see, like that's one of the reasons why I don't like to tune the race cars, is because you get into events like that. It's not only are the drivers is a pissing match between those two, but it's also a pissing match between the tuners. Mm-hmm. And I mean, those guys today, I'm pretty sure they were willing to put everything on the line. James is grabbing a scramble button in somebody else's truck. Like it didn't change. His vehicle changed, but he didn't change. I wasn't expecting him to grab the scramble, and he's like, "Yeah, I got on it as soon," because he was racing miles.
Yep.
And James just got on the button right away. It's like you might as well just keep adding to the dome and the tune. Don't even give him a button.
I think Nate knows now not to put much on the scramble.
Well, I think Nate gives him a false scramble sometimes and don't tell him.
Yeah.
Just let him think that that's what's going on.
I always tell Nate, I'm like, you gotta have it like he has to hit it a bunch of times, so it slows him down a little. Like every hit turns it up just a little bit more.
That would be funny. Just set like a 2 or 3/10 timer on it to where every time he hits it, he only gets his little small burst.
Yeah,
that'd be funny.
It'd be like what do they do? Like push to pass in like Formula One and Indy. They do like you have to just get that little burst.
Yeah.
Well, even in like F1, they have like tuners win awards at the end of the year.
Really?
They kind of need that in like LDR and Ultra Street and stuff like that because the tuners there, those guys are badasses.
And they're not like, so I'm not a chassis guy. But those tuners are, as I think Pete calls them, a super tuner. Because they're not just tuning the engine, they're tuning every aspect of the car. Yeah. And that's where my brain just doesn't go there.
But then, like, you hand them a laptop and you're like, okay, like, get it to idle.
Yeah.
They're like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you make this idle and have, like, good street mannerisms and, like, tip in on the throttle and stuff? Like, throttle go 100, throttle go 0.
Yeah. Well, it's like Nate was impressed one day. I think he was working on Moonshine and had just swapped it over to M5, and it cold started. Now, granted, it's a Florida cold start, but he actually was so proud of himself. He sent me that video, and he's like, look at this cold start. Because he just reached in there, didn't have to touch the throttle or nothing. And that's how I believe race cars should be. And so what sucks is you don't usually get a lot of time with the race cars at idle because most of them don't have cooling systems. So it's kind of hard to make ones fire up nice without all that data.
Well, even like cold starts, too, you really don't get a whole lot of opportunities to cold start a car.
Yeah, until you go to World Cup.
Yeah, exactly. Then you get all of them.
Then it's culture shock to all the Florida boys. Yeah.
Yeah, because like my tuner, he had like, we put the Haltech in the car and it's like, okay, I brought the car up for the tune. It's like, you get like 1, maybe 2 colds, like true cold start where the engine's cold.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just a warm engine, warm fuel.
And see, like for me, GM already laid out the cold start for me. I just have to think about how the parts that we added to it changes, the fuel demand or the airflow demand or whatever. So if if your camshaft is, say it makes 25% less idle torque, then that usually means the VE table needs 25% less in that spot. And, so we can take that and take the factory data that we know is good and make it that way.
Is there anything else you want to get into tuning on, like any other platforms or anything? Or you try to stick to the GM, late model GM stuff?
I would like to be the best I can be at one specific application because a lot of the guys don't get me wrong, most tuners can tune all vehicles. They can punch the buttons and figure their way out, but I want to be the guy that people call when they have an issue. And that's unfortunately where I'm at now is almost every vehicle I remote tune is usually because somebody else has remote tuned it or somebody's put on the dyno and it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. And so, but because I've got so much experience in that one niche, people can send me emails about what their vehicle is doing, and usually I can diagnose it without even seeing a data log. And so just because of the way they describe it.
Yeah.
As new stuff comes out, I would lose that capability, and I don't want to do that. So, with the Coyote stuff, it got to the point where, like Lund has an IT team. I don't think a lot of people know that, but he's not just jumping in HP tuners and using it like it's software as is. He's actually adding his own parameters from the binary file, or they're using a different software in general.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to have to do that.
Well, a lot of people don't realize Lund was an IT guy before he tuned. He was doing like automation in buildings.
Yeah.
Which is pretty similar to tuning in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So I would rather just keep up with the advances in the GM market. Or, Mopar, I'm not as big about the Mopar stuff, but obviously I can tune it.
There's a lot of Mopars too, so it seems like a good market.
It is.
Those trans seem pretty tough, which is nice too.
Yeah, but then you got to deal with what shop wired up the halo headlights and the wheel lights. And
Mopar owners are different.
They are different.
Mopar owners are different.
I'd love to drink beer with a Mopar lover like that, but I don't want to tune his car.
Gen 3 Hemi owners are different.
They are.
Yeah, but yeah, I get that. Just specialize. At least you picked a pretty broad platform. You didn't pick like SRT4 neons. And you're like, I just want to be the best at SRT4 neons.
Right. But it worked out because I understand the logic of it. It worked out like when the giveaway truck come about. That's a brand new ECU that nobody had done anything with. But come to find out, as long as you understand the flow of how the factory ECU works, you can get it to work. And obviously we got it to go 9s, and that record still holds to this day.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. That still holds currently. Is there... kind of sad, honestly, that it's like...
it's a full-size truck, and it takes a lot of money to build a full-size truck to go that fast. So
look at how many F-150s there are.
Well, but...
there's a demand if GM just freaking did it more.
Well, but you got to think about how much heavier the GM trucks are. It would take a lot to get it as light as an F-150.
Isn't that funny, too? They're heavier. They're like smaller interior, smaller trucks.
Yeah.
And they're less tunable.
Yeah.
Really not a tough sell.
Yeah.
Really a tough sell to get.
Yeah.
And I think the giveaway truck broke an axle racing.
I broke 3.
That never happens on the Coyote.
Well, I think that was honestly because of the drop kit. I think whoever manufactures that drop kit needs to use the Trail Boss axles, which are just a little bit longer. So it was not fun.
Do you still end up contacting with a lot of these giveaway winners then?
Usually I'd like to not have to unless they're going to make a change. But the guy that won the red truck, he starts it up in his driveway, takes it out, does a burnout, puts it back up. It's on pump gas. It's on like 3 pounds of boost.
Yeah.
That was the pulley that we had available that day. And I'll tell you right now, that 427, even on 3 pounds of boost, that is the fastest 3 pounds of boost I have ever felt.
Yeah.
The truck probably still makes 650, 670 wheel.
Well, most people would be plenty happy with that.
Yeah, and then the fact that it's got a converter with a 10-speed, it's a fun truck.
Yeah, that's probably a great daily driver. Shock any person you pull up to at a red light.
Yeah, but no, the giveaway stuff, unfortunately, a lot of the guys sell the vehicles, and then I'll get contacted by the third purchaser of the giveaway vehicle after the fact, and they're wanting me to give all this information. And
well, I know the TRX guy and the Trackhawk guy both sold theirs.
They did.
And I get it. Those things probably get 4 miles to the gallon.
Yeah.
They probably cost a ton to insure.
Yeah.
They're probably after a couple months, they're like, oh yeah, this is just $90,000 I could have instead of this thing that gets 4 MPGs and
But no, the guy still owns the teal 2-door Tahoe.
I don't think I can get rid of that if I wanted
It's
either.
a nice truck, yeah.
And it's so unique. The TRX is cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
But it's not unique. It's not
the short one is.
The short one is. It's definitely something.
Yeah, it is.
But that teal car, you're not going to see another one.
No, and that thing was so clean. It was such a nice vehicle.
Yeah. They did a really good job. Chassis across the board.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. You're just not going to see another one.
Yeah.
And there was something else funky he gave away too. He didn't give away the Atom, right?
Well, that was a part of a choice. So they had the Leroy Jr. or Leroy.
Oh, yeah.
I think they call it Leroy Jr. And you could pick either that one or the Atom. Mm-hmm. And so they picked Leroy Jr. And so the Atom, Garrett ended up just selling outright to a private individual.
And you tuned the Leroy Jr. then too, I guess?
No, Nate did that one.
Nate did that one. So anybody out there, you got a Nate tune in that thing.
Yeah. Well, like even the Atom, the Atom was more of me and Nate working together because I teach Nate on the stock ECU stuff a lot, and then he'll teach me on the standalone stuff.
Yeah. Well, what engine was in that? Was it a
That was an
Ecotec?
Ecotec, supercharged. Yep. And it was on E85, had some pretty nasty injectors in it. Like that car was actually kind of hard to tune, but apparently we had found out that the original tuning shop that tuned that car had so much time invested and the car drove horribly. So it was good on the track, which is what it was meant for. But
Like,
me
just
being
like
me,
street mannerisms.
yeah, I want Garrett to be able to put anybody in the thing and let them drive it. I think Fred from 1320 drove it. I think one of the 1320 guys drove it to like dinner one night. Like that's my goal is let's tune it to where it's actually like that, where you can just shove somebody in it.
Yeah.
Because that car, basically the throttle when we got it was like an on-off switch.
Well, that's what most people want from their cars. Like you start it up and
Yeah.
you go drive it like it's a car. You want it to just drive like a car.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would definitely be unfortunate. The Ecotecs are an interesting one too. They're like popular in like weird segments of cars.
Yeah.
But then you don't hear about them in anything else.
No, and guys go absolutely wild on those combinations. I've got guys 60, 70 pounds of boost on that era of four-cylinder, and it is crazy what those things are capable of.
They're like weirdly popular in Brazil or something, I think.
Are they?
Yeah, like they race them down there. It's just a weird engine because you don't see them really ever. But it is cool that you guys were tuning on that. Was it stock ECU also?
That one's stock ECU.
Huh.
Stock ECU on E85. Crazy part about that one was the heat exchanger for the intercooler brick was under the car and the fan wasn't working. So the whole time the manifold air temp was just through the roof. So even when Garrett took it to the track and everybody saw it's like 1,600-pound car, it made like 330 wheel or something. They're thinking it should be really fast, and it wasn't. It was cool. I think it went like 11.8 or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was probably 240-degree intake temp when he was doing it.
Yeah. And even if you look, intake temps are notoriously slow sensors.
They are.
So if you watch your graph do this, it's really shifted over a little bit more. We have to always think about that with mine. On my car, it's like, if it's doing this at the end of the pass, it's really mid pass.
Correct. Well, and a lot of guys don't realize this, but every degree of intake temp is roughly a horsepower.
Yeah, that one pains me because my Camaro gets pretty high intake temps. It's hard to keep the temps down when you run quarter mile.
Spray it with more nitrous.
I've tried that as well. It doesn't get that happy. I've tried less boost, more night. We've tried a few different things.
Really?
It gets pretty high. It gets up there.
See, that's one of the biggest things that make the LT platform sensitive to nitrous is the blower temps. If you put like a little 35 shot on a, say, C7Z, you're talking that 35 shot may pick it up 100, 120 horsepower just from the manifold air temp alone.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I've known a few guys that did the inner chiller stuff on there. Yeah. And I've had people comment to do that on my car. And it's like, guys, I cannot do that on my car. It does not have air conditioning. Right. Or I'm not going to put it on there for this.
Well, they work really well. But the thing is you have to remember on that one is the AC compressor clutch and 7,000 RPM or whatever you're revving out to, it's not the greatest on that AC compressor. Yeah. So ideally, you would want to run the inner chiller, get the whole water tank iced down as much as you can, and say have the compressor kick off at 4,500 RPM or 5,000 RPM. Mm-hmm. But on a quarter mile, it heats that tank up really fast when the AC compressor is not running. Yeah. So it's kind of like a give and take on that one.
Yeah, I've always kind of been weary of that too, because even especially if you go drag racing, it's like, turn your AC off. Yeah. You can't just leave it on.
Well, now the inner chiller stuff, they actually do have a valve that you can hit. You push a button and it goes into race mode or whatever, and it closes off the AC drain. So they did think that one through.
Yeah, so that you can drain it after the pass. Yeah. It seems like a great concept. It just seems like a lot of strain on everything.
Oh, I'm sure it is
involved. Yeah. But I guess some factory cars come with it. Some of the Dodge stuff has it built in. It's like their race, they call it something dodgy where it's some marketing name for it. They had to do it, just like when they came out and had to do a wheelie on the stage with their Demon when they did it. It's just very Dodge of them. Yeah. That's how they get their clientele, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's a cool one. It's cool to see I was just thinking about this the other day too on factory supercharged cars and my top 5 list of factory blower cars, and they kind of all end up being Chevy or GM or Dodge, really, because
You not like a 0304 Cobra or Lightning kind of fan? Or?
no, the GT500, the newest one, probably made the list.
Okay.
The 0304 Cobra, it was never really my thing, but that probably would make the list of most iconic blower cars of all time.
Yeah.
Especially once people put like a Kenny Bell on there and just heat soak the living piss out of it.
They sounded cool though.
They sure did.
I think everybody remembers the video of like the blue 0304 Cobra with the Kenny Bell Mammoth or whatever on there, and they're just doing a street pull and just back to back revving it up, and it was unbelievable sounding.
Oh, I mean, there's one I can think of that the guy does like this street burnout for like a full quarter mile.
Yeah.
Just burnout. And I'm like, that IATs are probably insane.
Yeah.
Young me was like, oh, that's the coolest thing ever. Then I see it again and I'm like, those IATs, that guy is bold.
Yeah.
That poor motor was just screaming for life in there.
Well, that's the unfortunate part about factory blower cars is usually it's always that poor motor screaming for life. Like LSAs, I mean, I don't know how many I see with, rod bearings that are gone, and it's just because intake temp has gotten so hot. It's just beat the hell out of the piston and rod and bearing and everything.
Yeah, poor LSAs. LSAs had kind of a weird problem with rod bearing failure, it seemed like, though, but it's probably just an IAT thing, like a pump fails, too, or something. And
well, I mean, you got to think when the piston's that hard, the rod is that hard, the rod bearing is the weak link. And so anything that can cause detonation, which IAT is the main thing of, detonation, it's just going to hammer that rod bearing out of it.
Well, and then they do the funky things of trying to save, like, with cat over temps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where then it puts it into weird modes again. And,
it just douses it with fuel. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you're like, why is it doing this? I remember I was racing Garrett one time when he had a Porsche, way back with my CTSV in his Porsche. It was a 911 Turbo S, real nice car. We did a pull, and I was like right at his bumper. Mm-hmm. We did another pull. I was like, he had like a half a car on me. Yeah. We did another identical pull. He's got like a full car and a half on me. And then after that, I was like, it's just done, dude.
Yeah. Well, and they do the same thing on the dyno. Like if you put a 6th Gen ZL1 on the dyno, bone stock one on a dyno jet will usually make like, I don't know, 550, 560, and the next pull is like 520, and then it's like 500, and it happens fast.
Yeah, you kind of have to do like a Hail Mary pull. Like, all right, we're going to let it cool down.
Yeah.
Just to show the customer he wants to, open his hood and put the sheet there when he goes to Cars and Coffee.
Yep.
I'm that customer. That's what I do. I go to Cars and Coffee, open the hood. It's got the ZL1 lid, so it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's got a couple AN fittings on the lid instead of just push lock.
Yeah.
So you got to really flex it a little bit.
What'd that car end up running? Like 1130?
It's been like right on the border of 10s.
Okay.
But I never have much E85 in it. Every time I end up at the track, I'm like, just filled it up with 93. My dumbass just filled it up.
Yeah.
But it'd probably go 10s with a tire and E85. But
It should.
It's just one of those things. It's like, do I push to run a 10 with it?
Well, the good thing about E85 is it's not as sensitive to intake temp. So, normal fuel will start to get unhappy at 130, 140 degree intake temps. I mean, E85, you can push it deep in like the 170, 180 degree intake temps before you really have to start worrying about anything.
That is nice. That definitely makes me feel a lot better when I know they're getting that high. I have an N gauge for it.
Oh, that's good.
Which is nice, so I can at least see the IATs, because if you have one of these cars, you can't see the IATs. You just have to guess.
But you got to be careful with that, because sometimes the N gauge, you'll have IAT, IAT2, and then in the later cars, you'll have IAT3 and manifold air temp. So I've had a lot of customers say, oh, my intake temps are great, but they're looking at IAT1, and then next thing you know, their blower or the heat exchanger pump has airlock in it because of, like, a lot of the ZL1s from the factory were coming with air in there. Like, I've had brand new off the showroom floor ZL1s be down like a half a gallon on heat exchanger fluid. Well, those pumps, the EMP pumps will actually, they'll shut off when they sense air. Yeah. So their intake temps at the MAF, 105, 108, they're like, oh, they're great. They never get above 110. You look at manifold air temp, it's like 230, 240.
Yeah, you got to at least scroll through the gauge a little bit. Whichever one's the highest is probably the one that you're supposed to be paying attention to.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have. Like, I'm glad I got one before they evaporated from the world, because it's unfortunate, because there's really no good way to just monitor a couple things like that.
Yeah.
Because I think it'll show me my ethanol content. It'll show me the IATs. It'll show me a couple like nice parameters that I just can't see normally. And I don't leave it. I don't have it like mounted to the dash like some people.
Oh, you don't?
No.
You're not the normal. You don't have the V gauge?
No.
Really?
I have the gauge and I keep it right and behind my seat.
Yeah.
Because like 99% of the time, I don't need to look at it. So if I'm going to go race it or I'm thinking about it, I'll just plug it in and put it there and just look.
I don't know that I've ever been in a V2 that didn't have the Aero Force or whatever it was.
No, I don't have that. It's
really
too cheesy. I can't take the clock out.
Yeah.
The nice analog clock for an IAT gauge or any kind of gauges, especially the N gauge, because it's so big and modern looking that it kind of screws up the aesthetic a little bit.
Yeah.
It does have a wideband in it, but it's in the little cup holder thing, little center console area.
Yeah.
So you don't really see it as much. But again, how much am I looking at a wideband in a car that's just tuned? Like,
I mean, it's still beneficial.
It's nice. Yeah. Like if you feel like something's doing something weird, for the most part, it's like it's just kind of there. Mm-hmm. And I don't try to look at it very much.
But yeah, those cars, the diagnosing of blower temps is one of the biggest things that I have to do. There's a lot of cars where you'll get to a certain power level and like catalytic converters will just fail from the power level. The TRX did that. Did you know that?
No.
Christmas tree drags. Did you watch that truck race?
Yeah.
Did you see all the
Zach
smoke that came out of it?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. All that smoke that came out of it.
It just blew the cat out.
Completely was gone.
Huh.
But we knew, I mean, you get to that power level, I mean, that's a lot of power for factory cats.
Yeah.
But I had a customer, actually a day or two ago, has a Camaro that we started to see some knock retard up top. It's got a Whipple on it, 3-liter Whipple at probably 12 pounds of boost or so. Well, we started to get some knock retard. I'm like, that's strange. Like, we haven't had knock retard the last like 16 revisions. And next thing you know, the boost starts creeping up. And so we were at 180, 190 kPa. Well, the next data log he sends me, it's at 247, which is 21.5 pounds of boost on pump gas. And I'm like, man, something is wrong. Boost, you got a Whipple in there. Boost don't just go up.
Yeah.
And he's got a normal pulley size. Like, it wasn't pulleyed to do anything more than like 12 pounds. And I was like, here's the thing. The engine's got to have a restriction in it somewhere, and you got to find it. Fortunately, he was able to pull the cats down. Gone. I mean, it's like it was the Cook's high flow cats. Mm-hmm. All the material just balled up and just completely plugging up the hole.
Huh. Just, I think it's all like platinum in there, just like melted it.
Completely gone.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because he probably paid $800 for those cats.
Oh, yeah.
The high flow stuff is not cheap.
But he's lucky because you put that much drive pressure on an engine. I mean, he could have caused his engine failure too.
Yeah, that's a lot of back pressure on those valves and stuff because it's right there. It's not like it's very far down either. It's like, yeah, that's a scary one.
But that's the majority of my job is finding stuff like that.
He probably felt that it was like,
oh, he knew it was slow.
Doing some weird
he would email me and say, man, this car is just slow. And I'm like, it shouldn't be. Like, it's, you get an LT1 with a camshaft and 12 pounds. That car should be rowdy.
Yeah. I know. I always go back and forth on the cats on my CTSV, but it's like, hey, it's kind of nice having cats.
Yeah, you don't smell like it when you take it to dinner. Like,
yeah, it's like a normal car. It's going to be a good bit louder. It's like,
well, and of course, with me being around all these cars all the time, I like them quiet. All my trucks are as quiet as I can possibly get them. My motorcycle's quiet. Like, just, I need peace and quiet.
That's how I feel. Like, if it's not racing it, I don't need it to be louder. If it's not benefiting it, it's not going to make it any better. I mean, just let it be quiet. Especially with a truck. Like, the new Mustangs are the worst. People put those, like, the most extreme exhaust of all time on there. And they do that because they're pretty much the only thing they can do, mod-wise, is just put an exhaust on it.
I have to ask, though, do these guys really think it sounds good? Because, don't get me wrong, Coyote's a beautiful engine. And at 9,000 RPM, they sound fantastic.
Through a turbo.
But like a Borla Attack exhaust on a Coyote Mustang, and then they do the cold start where everything is, full timing retard and, the catalyst heating function and the warm-up function. That is the most god-awful sounding vehicle I think I've ever heard. I would rather listen to a straight pipe VQ over a Coyote that's straight piped or got a Borla
trumpets,
on it.
Yeah. I don't blame you at all. I would agree. It's crazy how loud, like, the Attack exhausts are crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane. Garrett, for a while, like, I don't know, when we were first messing around with this C7, he put this like badass exhaust on there, and then like a month later, he was like, "Yep,
Taking it off.
different exhaust."
Well, see, I feel like the loud Mustangs. It's kind of like, you know how everybody says that you think your own kid's cute. Mm-hmm. Is it like that? Is it because like it's their Mustang and I don't know.
Yeah, that's tough because if they hear someone else's, they must have heard one to be like, "That's what I want mine to sound like."
Yeah.
It's not. It's
But I mean,
not
that
what-
brings up another thing. Like, I won't do the burble tunes or the flamethrower tunes, or I'm out. Sorry.
Well, it should be getting more doable now with what you can do with the cam phasing on LT stuff, right?
Yeah. No, I actually tested this, and I actually posted the video up of it. So I actually have a lot of guys will contact me for the burble tunes because I posted a video of me doing one. But with the driver demand stuff, you can actually change it between tour and sport. And so I can actually have the car where it'll burble in sport and not in tour. It's really nice to do it that way.
Yeah.
But I was just doing it just as a test, just to see if I could do it. And also, if I put out the video, obviously it's going to get some clicks.
Yep. Is that doing it with the cam phasing then?
No, that's
Okay.
just, yeah.
That's just with fueling?
No, what I'm doing is it comes back to the torque stuff. So in the driver demand table, I can actually ask for less torque. Well, less torque means less timing. Timing is traditionally what causes all the pops and bangs and stuff. So if I request super negative timing, it closes up the throttle body on D-cell pretty heavily, and it pulls all the timing out of the car.
Yeah.
So if you've got one, negative 15 degrees of timing on D-cell, they pop pretty good. But then you put it back in tour mode, and the torque modeling is still correct like factory, and it's not popping anymore. So it's cool to have the advanced way of doing the burble stuff, but I'm anti-burble.
Oh yeah, I mean it can't burble like that. It just can't.
Yeah.
So the other day, a couple weeks ago, maybe like not even a week ago, I made a video. It was just a short 1-2 minute TikTok, and I was like, why does GM do this? Why do the engineers have to make it, tap the rev limiter on startup? Just kind of being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Obviously, it doesn't hit the rev limiter.
Right.
But sometimes those things sound like they rev freaking high on startup.
Yeah.
Like, especially the SUVs. They sound like they hit like a pretty high RPM sometimes.
They do.
Then they idle back down. I'm like, is that thing just hitting 4,000 out here?
Well, when you're starting up a cold engine, I mean, you need some RPM, you need some quick heat. You've got to have this stuff, and especially with the cats. Mm-hmm. So when you fire up a GM, they go into catalyst heating function. So it'll go high on RPM, and it'll go super negative on ignition timing. They're just trying to put the heat in the cats as fast as possible.
Yeah, so they're trying to get the burn as far down the
Correct.
exhaust
Right.
as they can.
So that's why it does that. Same reason why on the Coyotes, the way they start the way they do.
Yeah.
But you'll get somebody like Lund where I forget what he calls the tune, but he'll have it set up to where it'll just start at a normal RPM and
Instead of like,
normal.
rah,
Yeah.
and like idle back down, and you're like,
Yeah.
my neighbors are sleeping here. Like,
Yeah.
we don't need to do this. This is too aggressive.
Yeah, but that's the cool part about tuning is as these vehicles get more advanced and we have the control, some people don't need the control, but it's cool to have the ability of doing that. And like the multiple maps and just that stuff, it's really fun.
Well, like I've heard Corvette guys say, like, yeah, it hit like 4,000 RPM on the startup. It's like, yeah, that's pretty spicy.
Yeah, something's probably wrong on that one.
They might have been.
That's the vacuum leak we were talking about
That
earlier.
could have been, yeah. Well, like the C8 stuff and like the new, even like the V starts up pretty, like Garrett's new, the V Escalade deal. Like they hit like a decent RPM, and I'm like, man, that poor bearings, they're cold. There's hardly any oil even touching them yet. Like, you're just gonna 3 revolutions of the engine and just.
I mean, I will say GM has been having some 6.2 bottom end issues.
Oh yeah, all of them.
I know.
There's like a 800,000 motor recall on those deals.
Yeah.
Because they just kick a rod out. I was at a dealership the other day and I talked to the foreman and I was like, how many 6.2s have you seen? He's like, a lot.
It's bad.
Like dozens.
It's very bad. And that's what makes me nervous about him having the Escalade V, honestly. Because if the bottom end fails while it's in his possession, you know whose fault it is.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that one's still in warranty at
It
least.
is. Well, it will be.
Yeah, it
For
will
the
be.
next 100 miles, maybe.
You see, if I had a 6.2, I'd not take it out of warranty.
Well, this is the good thing about Garrett that a lot of people don't know about is he basically acts as the extended warranty for the vehicle for a while, especially for the giveaway winner.
Yeah.
And so I've watched him pay for stuff that it's broken after the fact, he backs it because he wants these people to be that kind of happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I applaud that so much because he could wash his hands as soon as they got the vehicle. I mean, really, that's what he should do. I mean, giving somebody a modified vehicle, he should be washing his hands and don't talk to him anymore.
Well, if you can't control the input anymore,
right.
like what the user is putting into the vehicle, you should not have to handle the repercussions of the output of what happens.
But he cares about people so much that he still does.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then
it is.
I know him too, and he's probably not one to be like, yeah, bring it back in.
Yeah,
like we'll just do it remotely.
He does, yeah.
Rather
we'll just pay whatever shop, just find a good shop to handle it, and he'll cover it. Now, I'm not saying this is like a forever thing, but I've seen it happen
within reason, of course. Yeah, it's like wrapped it around a tree.
Yeah.
I don't think he's doing anything about that.
No, probably not.
I don't think any of the giveaway winners have done that.
No. Well, I was just sitting here trying to think. I don't think anybody's actually done anything like that.
They've all been pretty tame on them.
They have. Most of the guys have been pretty responsible with them, as best I can tell.
Yeah, I haven't heard any horror stories, and it'd come out immediately.
Yeah.
Because it just would.
It's the way social media works.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen like arrests with the Cletus shirts and stuff that are always pretty funny.
That's been hilarious here recently.
Well, it's going to happen more and more. You keep selling enough shirts.
Yeah.
Eventually they fall into the wrong hands.
Yeah.
You see people getting arrested wearing a Cletus shirt. It's funny when it's like a car chase or something like that. It's like a non-violent offense.
Well, that's where my brain was going right there, because there has been some instances where YouTuber merch was put on a person that it wasn't non-violent.
Yeah. Well, Matt,
that's the one I'm talking
about. Is a great example, and he's talked about this openly. I don't think it's any secret that the one guy in the last 50 years to get a shot off at a president, and he was wearing a Demolition Ranch shirt.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Is a crazy circumstance that I feel horrible that Matt ended up falling into that.
Yeah.
It's just luck of the draw. I mean, that guy could have had a Cletus shirt sitting in his drawer, and it was just the second one down.
I'll be honest, odds are
there's a good chance.
I mean, if you're a fan of Demo Matt, I mean,
it's a good chance that, it's crazy to think about.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, we'll wrap this up, man. I know you said you make a bunch of content, and I want to plug all your websites. And your website's your main place where people order a tune, right?
Yeah, it is.
And
so that one's tuning-tips.com. But the best thing to do is honestly just like, Matt Sanford on YouTube, Instagram, all the normal spots. It's just my name.
Yeah.
And at least if you want to get a remote tune from me, just watch a couple of my videos first and determine if that's the route you want to go. Yeah.
Do some research, learn what you're kind of going for. I mean, they got a lot of, if they're this far in the video, they've probably gotten a strong helping of you and what you kind of stand for and how you operate. But yeah, if you want to learn some more tuning tips and see how he operates his YouTube channel, and the website's really cool. I've poked around on there a few times, and the way that you laid out how you sell tunes is very straightforward.
Yeah.
Most people, you don't know how much a tune is going to be or how a tune works until it's done.
Right.
And that's cool. It's like upfront pricing and upfront, you know what you're getting into,
right,
which is helpful for a lot of people. So good deal, man. Thanks so much for coming on. I'm glad we could finally make this happen, but that'll do it, guys. We will see you next time.